were thinking about doing the whole episode in a really silly voice.
Were we?
The whole thing?
Yeah.
No, my voice will hurt.
Although we make it
Plus,
even-
you already
even
got a
better.
stupid voice.
I feel insulted now.
Right. We've got your mead.
We have.
Should we start the
Oh,
episode
nice.
before we pour it out?
No. We haven't done a load of pre-bollocks for ages.
Oh, okay.
Besides which, I've already been warming up a little bit.
Crack this open.
Oh, I was going to put a thingy out on the WhatsApp, wasn't I? Do you have an invite? I was going to put a link out
Yes.
on the After Dark Network so we could get gate crashed.
It should be on the clipboard already.
It should be on the clipboard. So let me just chuck that in the thought book.
Chin chin.
I thought I'd go with smaller glasses after our last adventure with mead.
What happened last time?
Well, I was using those whiskey tumblers, the big ones, and we drank the whole bottle in 2 glasses, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to pour that, and I'll shove this in the doobry. Fascinating content.
ASMR sounds for our audience here. Sounds like I'm going for a piss.
By the way, can you hear us okay? Because you're hearing us through the what?
Your computer.
Is it the computer mic?
It might be. Hang on, I haven't checked yet. It is, yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
Cool beans.
Can you hear me all right? It should be coming through this bit.
Yep. Is there anybody there?
I'm gonna.
I'm trying to navigate Facebook like a noob. I don't want pages, I want groups. Oh, doggy.
You're such an old man.
What? Okay. And enter. Okay, so we could get gate crashed at any time, or nobody could bother because they're a bunch of miserable bastards. But we shall see. Actually, I shouldn't say that because we're actually recording now, and a lot of them do actually listen to it. I've got a habit of doing this, haven't I?
He was
Yes,
No,
yes,
I
you
wasn't.
do.
he was shite
I
talking
wasn't-
you before we started.
I was not.
What did you call him?
Hey, it got us a bottle of mead. Don't knock it.
Wait, can I change my name to the prick or
Yeah, I never called you a prick, did I? I thought I called him a knob.
Yeah, it was the knob, I think.
Oh, that was it. Sorry. I can rename myself.
Shall we begin and explain our guest's presence
Oh,
to the waiting world?
I need to think of an intro again. I'm still doing this. Been trying to spice it up still because it's 2021 and I'm dying.
Are you?
Yes. Right. Ah, fuck.
Oh. Do you like honey?
Not too much of it, but I'm not adverse to a little bit.
Are you being disgusting?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Mm.
What are you on? Is that Moretti? Moretti?
It is indeed. Birra Moretti.
That's the one with the funny adverts, isn't it? The Italian guy.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
That's about all I can really remember about it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Go on then, start the episode. Have you come up with an intro yet?
Prepare yourself.
I'm prepared.
Get in the position. Hello, friends and family. I am Firebolt,
I'm the Orbiter.
and we are
And
joined,
I'm the knob.
yes, by a very special guest, That's all the introduction he needs. Right, let's crack on with the episode.
That's not very nice. I should explain.
Okay.
I can't remember which episode it was, but I was talking about Tom from Bridge Club, and I think I had a few drinkies, and I referred to him as he's a bit of a knob, but he's a good laugh or something. And I have taken the opportunity, since he has sent us a bottle of mead, I've taken the opportunity to invite him on so I can publicly apologise.
But internet beef, folks.
Trouble is, you've officially fallen for the ruse now. Because you're appearing on a podcast with us, you are officially now a knob like us. So,
Yeah. Oh man, it's official. I feel so proud.
Anyway, welcome to Breaking Bollocks, episode 80, I believe. Yes. Any things happening in your life, Thomas?
Well, I recently got into Bitcoin, like cryptocurrency, and I've already lost £5, so it's going really well.
do you mind?
No, I just bought a bit of Bitcoin, and it's like stocks. It goes up and down. And last night, pretty much all the Bitcoin stuff, the currency, all just plummeted, and so I lost some money. So it was amazing.
It went down on you, and not in a nice way.
Yeah. But apart from that, not much is happening, if I'm being honest.
I'm
I'm just playing a bit of bridge.
Chaotic time recently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, be careful what you say about that.
I'm not going to reveal too much, but I may have been in Seaton Park at night, like about a week ago, which you're not supposed to be, and I may have been making out with someone. Just get fun. Right.
Okay.
Anyway.
On the run.
No need to investigate that any further. Politics, news, stuff.
Okay, news.
Have you got an item?
I noticed Priti Patel's warming herself up to be a war criminal when the time comes.
Oh, is she like vying for defense secretary or something?
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Just in a general kind of refugee treatment and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Did you read about that? Did you hear about that? About her being found to have acted unlawfully by...
I mean, it happens every other week, so it's kind of hard not to read about it.
Yeah, but this was a legal ruling by some human rights court or something. It was a...
Oof, we're getting the tablet out. Let's see if you can work it.
You're going to be confusing the Scots out there now. Guardian. Oh. It stopped.
He can't work it.
One of my dad's friends works for The Guardian.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Like, as a writer.
I think as an editor.
I'm
not entirely sure what their role is.
I don't know. I can't remember, but it's in there somewhere.
Very helpful. David Cameron's been getting involved in lobbying Matt Hancock, which I think has been sort of buried under news of Prince Philip's death, because that's just been wall-to-wall covered on most of the news channels.
Oh, Greensill scandal.
Yeah.
Well. That's all going on, isn't it? Oh, there was a funeral yesterday too.
Okay. Do you want to put away the tablet?
No, I was looking for the article about Priti Patel, wasn't I?
Okay, well, do you want to search for it?
Yeah, I probably will do that. It's probably best, isn't it? Do you want to talk about something else while I'm trying to find that?
Scottish election is heating up.
We had some kids come and put Tory leaflets through our door earlier.
That's depressing.
I swear they weren't old enough to vote by the look of them.
Yeah.
But
yeah, here we go.
Found it really weird how the Alba Party's been covered, because they're not actually likely to get any seats, but they're being presented as like the second main independence party.
That's what it's about. Yeah, it's a bit dodgy. Well, it's a fucking lot dodgy,
Okay.
So it's the immigration court ruled on Wednesday that the Home Secretary's detention policies breach human rights rules. And basically, she's being accused of, or found to be frustrating or undermining inquiries into deaths that have happened in immigration detention centres. Basically, what's happening is that there are people who are in immigration detention centres who were witnesses to a couple of deaths, I believe, that happened in 2019. And there were problems with the healthcare policy at the immigration detention centre that kind of led to these deaths happening. And there were witnesses who were there who were due to testify about them. And the witnesses have mysteriously vanished.
That's quite disturbing.
Like, in other words, they've been deported, even though they were lined up to be witnesses in the investigation regarding these deaths.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's very worrying and authoritarian. But I think basically the way that the detention centers run on the US-Mexico border, I assume probably less so the US-Canadian border, because that's probably more going from the US to Canada. But and also on the UK border they are effectively, especially in a pandemic, function as concentration camps, because you're packing people into a tighter space than they were ever supposed to be packed into, which, spreads disease. It's generally quite tense, I would imagine. It's just a inhumane way to treat people, I think.
Yeah, this particular case, the solicitor involves, this is a direct quote, "Despite a tragic death within a detention centre, the Home Secretary did not hesitate to maintain her plan to remove potential witnesses by charter flight, ignoring anyone who wished to come forward to give evidence." Fun.
Mm.
But we should have asked before we invited you on, actually, whether or not you're a Tory.
I'm not a Tory, don't worry. Except I have very little knowledge of the political scene. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I apologize if I bore you or
You never apologised to me.
preach. No, because you're an idiot. Anyway,
it's all right. I better start learning soon. So,
Scottish election. I found it.
I think I should perhaps move that camera a bit.
Yeah, maybe. It's not capturing
We
us
just
very well.
see our heads. Sorry, you
Professionalism.
Oh, hang on. This is going to get worse. Oh, dearie me. Carry on.
Scottish election. Pissed off at Alex Salmond. Fucking piece of scrotum.
Anything extra that you're pissed off about than you were before?
Right. I don't know when it was. Basically, the Alba Party, famously for women's rights, led by Alex Salmond of all people, held a women's conference at which I believe it was Margaret Lynch was reported to have made comments accusing organisations, LGBT organisations in the UK of, which are funded by the Scottish Government, of a campaign to lower the age of consent to 10.
Oh, that was...
This is a complete fucking lie.
Bullshit.
I don't know where it's come from.
I did actually read about where it's to do with some article posted by a far-right extremist propaganda release in America, to do with some vague connection between talking about supporting some organisation that had talked about what was it? Okay, it was something to do with removing the sort of criminal aspect of adolescent sexual health.
Which is a law.
And make the connection between the 10-year-olds is that the definition in some dictionary or some encyclopedia or something of an adolescent is someone between the age of 10 and 18.
But if you're not aware, in Scotland, I think since about 2004, so this isn't really like a new thing. Like, it's been legal for people between the ages of 13 and I suppose 15 to adolescents to have sex with each other. It's not like completely legal, but they're not going to be criminals for it. They're not going to be put on a sex offenders register for that, because that would be kind of weird.
Yeah. Is that illicit consent?
Yeah, I think so.
What was that?
I assume something on Messenger.
I don't have... Oh, can you maybe mute Messenger for me, or just turn it off or something?
There
we go.
Right. Very professional.
It's going well, isn't it? Fucking hell, look at my camera. It just keeps slipping.
Well, do you want to maybe just use the Zoom recording?
I suppose we could, but no, because... Oh, we could. I don't know.
Or be any more professional.
I'm trying to make Tom feel at home by being kind of a bit of a noob. That wasn't meant as an insult, although I'm well aware that most things that come out of my mouth come across like that.
It's fine.
2 diamonds.
Yeah, but what I was saying before as well is the way that it's been covered from like things outside of Scotland is as like, oh, it's the Alba Party and the SNP, they're the main independence parties, even though it's the Green Party that are much more likely to be the, I think, possibly 3rd biggest party overall.
There's all sorts of shit going on with Greensill at the moment as well, isn't there? Sorry, that's not Scotland, but it's kind of related to... I made the connection because things aren't going well for the Tory party in terms of corruption kind of scandal.
They're just
at the moment.
Openly corrupt and nobody seems to care. It's so weird.
Well, yeah. It's just the timing's not brilliant for them. Depending on what your viewpoint is, I mean, I kind of think it's great timing because anything that's going to push us towards independence is kind of fine with me. But one thing I will say, totally unconnected, I'm not a royalist or anything, and I really couldn't give a shit about all the coverage that was going on with the funeral yesterday, but I did at least note that the Queen didn't do what Sinn Féin did with the funeral. She basically went and sat with her mask on her own, like, it was a very, very minimal funeral. It followed all the rules, but I don't know if you noticed, this is since last episode, I think it was last week, I don't know if the trouble's still going on, but there were 6 or 7 nights in a row where there were riots in Northern Ireland because the loyalists were pissed off that Sinn Féin had held basically a standard normal funeral with no social distancing, and everybody was there together, and there was no, the limit on numbers attending the funerals and stuff wasn't observed. But the police didn't do anything about it.
I was in the impression that was to do more with like Brexit issues at the border because of like the Northern Ireland Protocol.
It's connected. I mean, it's obviously, they're not obviously happy about that, but that's what kind of the catalyst that kicked off the riots, because all of that stuff going on about the Sarah Everard vigil where the police were wading in and breaking up crowds, Sinn Féin have their basically flouting the laws on gatherings for this funeral that they did, which I suppose politically is basically saying we're not subject to the UK's laws, which kind of makes sense for this. They don't actually take part at Westminster even though they have seats because they don't recognise the UK. But the rioting and the objections were basically because the police weren't doing anything about it when they've been going and wading in, stopping other gatherings happening. So it's kind of double standards, which is a bit weird because they're kind of, I don't know who. I mean, would it be the Royal Ulster Constabulary? I'm not massively up on Northern Ireland politics in terms of who does what, but it's the loyalists that are pissed off because I think basically they're feeling like they're like a third country now, aren't they? They're kind of in Europe but not. So they got no representation basically. There is this effective border down the Irish Sea, but they're not in Europe either, so they're not really being represented by the UK or Europe now.
Yeah.
Even though Boris Johnson, as usual, basically said this is definitely not going to happen, and then went ahead and did it at the same time. It's like it's just this kind of it is Orwellian, isn't it? It is. Double think.
Speaking of that, going back to that, I think I spoke about this before, the policing bill, which I don't think has passed, just because it's quite.
It did pass the second reading, didn't it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's going through, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, because it's still got to get through the Lords. I
mean, there's the part of that which relates to protests, which is quite worrying for civil liberties, but there's also another part of that which relates specifically to gypsies, Romani, and traveller communities, which I've done a little bit more. I've looked into that a little bit more, especially as some interview, I think, from 2013, it might have been 2017, resurfaced of Douglas Ross, who is the leader of the Conservative Party in Scotland, and also just
a wanker.
Yeah, generally. But it was an interview in which he was asked, if you were Prime Minister for one day without any repercussions, what would you do first? And he said, I would like to see tougher, I think he said enforcement against gypsy traveller communities, which is just...
Enforcement for what, though? I mean,
he's throughout his career actively opposed them legally settling anywhere, so it is just... I think it's still an acceptable form of racism in British society, that people can openly say that they dislike this. I mean, it's kind of a collection of ethnic groups because it's quite a complicated history there. But there's a particular one in Scotland, up in the Highlands, which has been here for like over 1,000 years, I think, as just like a nomadic people. And they've been pretty harshly ruled against over centuries up until fairly recently, and they're still pretty hard railed against. So I think there has been some efforts to sort of revive that cultural tradition, because to sort of lose that is to sort of lose your own identity. But yeah, it's a very disturbing development that they're just allowed to be that openly racist. I mean, I think like, it turned out as well with that racism report for the UK.
There's massive holes in that.
They actually just like fabricated quite a large amount of it when they didn't like what it said. Which
sounds like the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing, did you hear about the blah 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 blah?
No, I have not heard about that. What's that about?
The children's bill.
Oh yes,
the local
exactly.
government bill.
Sorry.
The children's bill and the local government bill that passed through Holyrood unanimously, and the UK government have decided to refer them both to the Supreme Court.
What was it?
So, Scottish Parliament passed the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child Bill and the European Charter of Local Self-Government Bill in the weeks before it went into recess. So, Scottish Secretary and Boris Johnson's cabinet had requested changes to be made, but no changes were made because it was unanimously voted through in Holyrood. And the UK government don't want it to go through. So they're basically, because there are parts of it that they think will place legal requirements on their ministers.
Right.
Which obviously they don't want legal requirements on their ministers. Basically, Sturgeon's written, the UK Tory government is going to court to challenge a law passed by Scottish Parliament unanimously to protect their ability to legislate or act in ways that breach children's rights in Scotland, basically. Yeah, so that's kind of more of trying to take away the, what do you call it? Self-determination of Holyrood, basically, isn't it? Because there's a law, there's 2 bills that have been passed unanimously in Holyrood, and UK government are saying, well, we're going to take it to Supreme Court.
I mean, I think that would be like within their authority, because fairly recently, banned smacking, didn't they? Which I think sort of falls under the same thing.
That would be well, there's been several things that Scotland's been a leader on in terms of progressive policy that England have kind of had to toe the line with eventually. There's a lot of things that they haven't, but
yeah, I think that's changed over the years, but yeah.
But I think a lot of times these things are kind of test cases, aren't they? Like, for instance, when it comes to the SNP getting a majority and therefore assuming themselves to have a mandate to call a referendum, and there is that issue of whether or not Boris Johnson wants to allow that to go through. There's a question as to whether or not legally it has to be agreed by Boris Johnson anyway. And I think that the idea is that if Nicola Sturgeon decides she's going to call one anyway because she's got the mandate from the people, it would be something that the SNP could take to a court to look at the legislation. I think it's Article 35, is it? Is that the one?
I have no idea.
It's the one that references the referendum. I think it's the Referendums Act for Scotland or something.
Right.
But basically, it doesn't actually state explicitly in there that permission is required from Westminster. So it would be but they've always said that they need to give permission. It's just that it's not explicitly stated in the Act. So taking it to court would kind of set the precedent. It would be a case of like
the Constitution, like, we kind of have a constitution in the UK. It's like these 4 documents which kind of,
but it gets written as we go along by the courts, doesn't it?
Because it just makes no sense, because it's archaic stuff from quite a while ago that made sense in that context.
Which is why through the whole of the last year the Tories have been pushing through with this policing and criminal justice bill measures which alter the powers of the courts, because they had all of that shit with Brexit where they had to, I mean, before Boris Johnson won that election, they were going to go ahead and do Brexit, and they prorogued Parliament, didn't they? And then I'm not sure which court it was, but one of the top courts in the country basically ruled that the government had acted unlawfully by doing that, and so they had to recall Parliament, and that was what ended up with the general election happening, and everybody voting for the Tories, who are now taking away the powers of the courts so that they don't get that happening to them again.
Oh, that just makes me despair.
Because there's like the 3 pillars, isn't there? I think is that how they refer to it in America? They've got like there's 3
Our
pillars.
Our system works very differently, but
yeah, but
because we have an unelected house, because we're democracy.
There's the state. I don't know. Anyway, have we done news? Can we talk about families? Because they're I mean, there's
I
politics
did want to
involved in
mention
families.
briefly, just because I don't think many other people would be talking about this.
Pigeon sex?
US side, there's been some very worrying developments in terms of anti-trans legislation. I think it's a record number this year alone compared to last year. I think it was 79 bills last year, 81 already this year, including, I believe, one in Florida that would make it legal for student athletes' genitals to be inspected if they were suspected to be of a different birth sex than the gender they identify with.
Well, that was the other thing the Tories have been criticised legally for recently as well, was not allowing through the legislation to prevent, what is it? Some kind of therapy. Conversion therapy. Yeah.
Well, basically, yeah, I mean, I think most people would be fairly set against conversion therapy for gay people, but a lot of people seem to think, oh, convincing a trans person that they're not trans, that's different for some reason.
I think there'd probably be less people in America that would be against the gay conversion therapy, though.
Yeah, no, conversion therapy is still...
I mean, it would be
very
difficult
illegal
to
in
justify it in this country because we've actually had a public apology from the government to Alan Turing on it, haven't we?
Well, that was castration, which is like another step up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I watched The Imitation Game the other day, and my God, he went through something.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but that's still legal in many countries that you would... I think it's still legal in Finland for trans people. They have forced sterilization if you want to be recognized as your gender identity, which is really fucking disturbing.
What's the logic behind that, though?
I mean, I guess it's sort of... There's some people with sort of like the view that, oh, if you're gonna transition, then you need to have the body that you would be transitioning into, which...
Oh, right, okay, because I was thinking when you were saying about forced sterilization, that kind of implies a eugenics thing, that they're thinking it's a genetic
the other
trait.
part of that, yeah, it does get into that, and that's part of the reason that they had that for gay people, because they thought, oh, you know, that they're going to procreate and create more gay people, which it's not how that works, but okay. I don't know.
It's not Minecraft, and any animal can procreate with any other animal.
No,
Is that what happens in Minecraft?
I don't know. I've never played Minecraft.
What, even humans?
What?
I did play it last
You
week,
not play
actually, the week before.
No, it's just... I think I sort of got into things like that a little bit after its peak, so...
I did, there were pigs and cows and stuff. So, as a character in the game, could you procreate with a pig or a cow?
No, so what I did the other day is I got two cows to come into a farm, and
Are we talking about Minecraft?
Gave them both wheat. Yeah,
Yeah.
Not real life, don't worry. But I gave them both wheat, and they made a baby, and then the baby grew up, and I gave the baby wheat and one of the parents wheat, and they procreated and created another cow.
I mean, it's not entirely inaccurate for a lot of species, but...
So cow incest
Yeah.
in Minecraft.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much the Lannister family in my basement in Minecraft, so...
Cool.
Yeah.
Fun. Anyway. We got any more new stuff? Oh, yeah, well, just sort of generally as well, it is a really worrying turn in the US right now. I think it's in Arkansas, they've made it basically illegal to even help trans kids in any way, which is just...
Not going in the right direction, is it?
It is the thing where I think a lot of people are having this conversation where they're genuinely talking about like fleeing the country to get away from this. It's not quite as bad in the UK. I mean, it varies from state to state in the US, which is kind of makes it a confusing conversation. But
You know, I'm not sure about. I've got a funny feeling it's just my awareness that's increased on these issues, because I've noticed recently a lot more the content in TV programs from America that are specifically addressing all of these issues, which are, I mean, not only over the last year, I've noticed quite a lot of. I've noticed more that there are characters that are specifically not gendered or are trans, but also me and Mum watching through The Affair at the moment, and there's a whole load of stuff in the later series of that to do with, well, the whole thing's got a lot to do with sort of women's rights, but also the Black Lives Matter and the refugee situation, the immigration situation, which I know has been going on for decades in the US, the immigration problem.
I mean, essentially since its conception, really, but I'm wondering whether or not that is something that's increasing in sort of artistic content specifically now, or if it's just that I'm noticing it more because it is more in the public arena now, or perhaps a bit of both.
I think with that stuff, you know, you can, the older, like maybe like 1920s arts, maybe media stuff, I don't know, they had to subtly hide it, because if it was blatant, kind of for trans people in that time, it would be shut down by almost every government or every leading political party at that time, and they would get in trouble and stuff like that. And which so now that it's much
why there's it's a law, the Hays Code, I think it came in the 30s, that any depiction of homosexuality had to be like shown as evil, which is why all the Disney villains are very gay for some, like Scar, Ursula's literally modelled after a drag queen.
I don't actually think of Scar as looking particularly gay. All the Disney characters kind of look camp anyway.
I think they call it like queer coding.
Right. Well,
but you go back to like Dracula, and like,
I don't know whether you know.
Very gay.
I might have to look it up. I don't know whether you remember, but when did homosexuality for men, because I know this wasn't an issue for women, become legal in the UK?
It varied a great deal because all the countries changed at different points. But
that's why I said in the UK.
Well, for the UK, I think in Northern Ireland would have been the last place, 1992. I will have to look that up. The reason I'm
saying is because that thing about the coding, I remember TV programs from the 70s that were just blatant. You know, I mean, I don't know if you've heard of Are You Being Served? Set in a department store, and they had a couple of gay, I'm sure they were gay characters, and although one of them was married, in the clothing section of a department store, and one of them character could call I can't remember his name, but he was played by John Inman, and his catchphrase was "I'm free," and it's like, you know, there was Larry Grayson on the Generation game. There was Morecambe and Wise, who used to they used to a bit like, you know, Bert and Ernie in Sesame Street. They would like get in their pajamas and get into a bed together and read their books and stuff before they went to sleep. And it's like, at that time, that was illegal in the UK, I believe.
All right.
What? So it's just weird that it was so prevalent in. Mind you, I suppose it's a similar situation now, isn't it? That you get a lot of stuff that's covered in the arts and media, which is in a legal sense.
It's been legal since 1982 in Northern Ireland, and that's the whole UK, I think. Although the overseas territories, maybe not.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Anyway,
that's what I mean. It's like, it's not like that wasn't. Mind you, I suppose it's not surprising really when you think you get like depictions of sort of murder, and I'm not equating murder to being gay, but you get illegal activity portrayed in TV programs anyway, So it's not really a surprise. It's just what's a surprise is that it was illegal at all, because people didn't bat an eye about. Nobody kind of. Well, I don't know. Maybe they did criticize it.
Yeah, it would have been like conservative alliances of concerned parents, that sort of stuff, that would have gone, ban this filth,
But you get no end of people that would be really into Queen and Freddie Mercury, and it was obvious what was going on there, but nobody would talk about that. It was, he was like a macho icon almost for, which is weird.
I don't know if it would have been legal in many of the countries they toured in, but it was legal in the UK by the time that was fairly obvious, I think.
Well, 82?
Well, that's just Northern Ireland. It was 68 for England, which probably would have been...
All right.
Or 67, I can't remember. Anyway.
This mead's awesome, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Should we get on to
What's that?
This sorry, could you not hear us? I should speak up a bit.
Wow.
This mead is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yes, it's Tom's own honey.
He's been a busy bee.
That gets more gross the more you know how honey's actually made.
Well,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
something to do with stamen and pollen and stuff. I mean, we have a hell of a lot of bees on our tree outside the window because there's blossoms and stuff going on.
Did you know that bees have holes in the side of their stomach so they can put their in the side of their body so they can put their head in the honey for longer? So they breathe out their asshole pretty much.
Cool.
Mm. Fun fact.
We talk out of hours most of the time, so.
True. Right. Sorry.
I did a bad thing and I drank a bit before I got on, so I would need to go to the loo really quickly.
That's
if that's
fine.
all right.
Ace.
I think we were about to segue into the actual topic.
It gives us an opportunity to confer.
Okay.
Okay. I'll be right back. Very sorry.
I should put in a sound effect of somebody pissing now. Pardon me.
Yeah, like this.
I don't know. I'm going to be a bit... What? You just used that as an excuse to top up your glass, didn't you?
Oh, someone's going to drink it.
Someone.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about family, aren't we?
Interesting, yeah.
It's going to be a minefield. Do you want to take that and put it over there so I can...
Well, that's fine. I don't think most of our family actually listens to this, so...
I don't think any of them do they?
No, probably not.
I mean, I don't even listen to it at the moment.
Well,
I
you're
will be
in it.
soon. I will be soon.
I get annoyed.
I'm back at the pizza place soon.
Either because I predict what I'm about to say because I've already said it, and that's like just my brain doing the same thing that...
I do that thing where, like, you kind of have that jinx moment where when somebody's having a conversation, you kind of think exactly what they were about to say, just as they were about to say it. I do that with myself and then think, oh, wow, that's really weird. But it's actually not, because not only is it likely to happen because I have the same brain as the person that was saying it, but I was there when it was said as well.
I quite often genuinely want to punch you through the screen. And that rage makes it difficult to watch our stuff sometimes.
You're very violent.
I'm not going to deny it.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, we were just having a wee bit of a conversation there.
Wee bit.
That's quite all right.
Anyhow, yes, the
Pardon me.
topic of family. Anyone have any ideas to start? I haven't really prepared anything.
Well, nor have I. Family. Okay. Well, I know you and I have. What is? Yeah. Don't know. What is family in terms of what are we talking about? Immediate family, or
Depends. I mean, sort of like the idea of a family, like in itself, I suppose it is more
what do you think of that phrase?
who you're close to, I guess.
I was going to say, what do you think of that phrase? You can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family.
There's this sort of concept of found family. I don't know if you've heard of that. I assume other people have this, but it's quite popular in like queer circles because quite a lot of queer people, their actual family isn't great to them, so they find like friends who they feel close enough to that it sort of becomes family.
I think that does happen a lot in artistic circles as well. But I mean, there's a curious parallel. It's no accident that people of that persuasion do tend to gravitate towards arts, because there is a certain amount of a family kind of vibe going on in any, like if you're doing a show together or working together on something. I mean, like, I'm in a weird situation at the moment because I would say the band that I play with in weddings and stuff, well, I'm in a couple of bands, but each one it's almost like a little family. But there's a couple of people that have changed in personnel during lockdown, and we haven't actually played together yet. So it feels like it's a weird vibe. I'm hoping that by this time next year, that will feel like a little sort of family. But what about actual family? What do you think of your family?
I think like the immediate family that like I talk to fairly regularly, like I don't particularly dislike people, I guess. Like the sort of main notes I would have on like immediate family is that of my grandparents. I'm not especially fond of their politics. Which I think is quite a common theme for a lot of people.
Definitely at the moment, there's a generational thing happened. Certainly since Brexit, a lot more.
Yeah, there's like topics that you avoid, I suppose.
Don't mention the war.
No, but like to the point where we genuinely, I think, have talked about like distraction tactics for when politics comes up.
Yeah.
Just for like someone else to mention travel, and that's a much easier subject. Do you have any comments on this?
I can't say I have many differences from my grandparents' political views, I think, because I think they're pretty reasonable for their generation. I don't know. But my main thing would be I've just listened to Game of Thrones and family's all messed up in that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between if you're friends with someone and if you're family. The only difference I can think of is
Do you mean like an audio book?
An audiobook, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Well, the whole whole saga.
Yeah. I've got it downloaded on my phone. So
has he actually finished?
I listened to it. Nah, he's got 2 more books scheduled. One of which has taken over a decade now to come out.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Everyone's waiting in anticipation after the disappointment of the last season of Game of Thrones.
See, I didn't actually mind it that much, but
I minded the last episode. I think I was less annoyed at the previous ones than other people were, but
I'm just not sure what people expected. Like,
I think
if anything, I could understand why. I suppose I would have liked it maybe if the war, or there was more of a kind of a drawn out battle war type thing going on with the ice giants. But are they ice giants? Ice people?
The White Walkers.
The White Walkers. Yeah, sorry, I'm mixing up with Marvel.
The White Walkers. Yeah.
I think that got resolved a bit conveniently quickly, but. Was there not a writer's strike going on at the time? So they had to, with a lot of things, seasons for a lot of programs were kind of
also they
curtailed.
Ran out of material that had actually already been written to just like be an adaptation. So they just started writing their own stuff, which is sort of like you can sort of do, but you're not going to have the same attention to detail that someone who's written extremely long fantasy series with extremely complicated politics and like about 12,000 different characters would probably. So
see, I think I was so disappointed with the ending of Lost that it would have had to have been really bad to have been worse than that.
I thought the only good episodes of Lost were the first and the last one. But I don't know. I've never actually watched it, so
how do you know then?
References, internet culture.
Okay. It's strange that you say you thought the first and last episodes were the best ones when you hadn't actually watched it.
Well, that's what I've heard.
Oh, right, okay. The second season was best for me. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, have you seen all of the Game of Thrones TV series as well?
Yeah.
Does it kind of?
I started watching the series and then I got into the books.
I know there are obviously big differences, but does it stray further away from the TV plot the further you get into the books?
Yeah. So there's some characters that are dead in the TV show and that aren't in the books and vice versa and stuff like that.
Right.
And there's a character that they just completely skip out, and there's a plot line that they could just completely skip out, which would actually help the last season if they left it in. But
somebody's bound to remake it at some point.
Well, they kept talking about doing that with
probably.
The Last Jedi, but honestly, out of the sequel trilogy, I think that was probably the best one, and generally, like there were a few points that were a bit iffy, but like as a film, I think it held up. Like,
see, with Star Wars, I think this is nothing to do with family, but I don't care. With Star Wars, I think it's more to do with which trilogy your generation grew up with, because I mean, I've liked all of them really. But then I'm not very discerning. But a lot of people who were young when the original trilogy came out slated the prequels. And then there were a lot of people that grew up with the prequel trilogy as being their main kind of thing that didn't like the sequels. 7, 8 and 9.
I get annoyed at like internet fandom stuff because it's just kind of this weird crowd.
Do you think family owe each other anything? Do you think families should stick together no matter what? Because there's a thing where people disown members of their family, isn't it? If they go, I mean, for instance, do you think if you committed murder, do you think that as a parent I should stick by you and still love you just as much and visit you in prison and stuff, and or do you think there is anything that somebody does that justifies disowning them as a family member?
I don't know. I mean, I would say sort of, a parent has a responsibility to their child to provide like a safe, loving environment of where the idea is that they're not going to be that love isn't going to go away if they do something that the parents don't like. Which I think something like, spanking your kids, it kind of shows like, oh, you're willing to physically attack someone if they do something bad, which isn't a good message to send, because you'll kind of either take that on as fear or as something to replicate in future, which...
Well, that's a weird one, because that's actually illegal now anyway, but...
In Scotland, but yeah.
Isn't it in England?
No, I don't think so. Not to my knowledge, at least.
So I've got a lot of friends from secondary school who said that the parents would hit them if they did something bad, and I really kind of sent them. It wasn't the nicest thing by any means. Didn't really teach them anything apart from there's violence involved if you do something bad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's not.
So I'm not sure if it's illegal in England.
It's not an entirely inaccurate thing to get, given how our world seems to work, but it's not something that a parent should be doing to their child. And I could understand a situation where you're saying about family owing stuff to each other. Parents think that their children owe them something, even if they've not been good parents, so to speak. I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's times that you do owe us a cup of tea or some washing up or something. But I don't know. Yeah, I know you're meaning something more important than that. But is that to a point, do you think? I mean, to a certain age? Or, do you think that the same responsibility for guidance, if you like, should continue, say, for instance, when you're 30, if you came to us for help, do you think we would bear the same level of responsibility?
I mean, I think you have if someone's coming to you for help, directly, and there's something that you can do, I think you have a responsibility regardless of their relationship.
Do you know what I think fucks it up, though? Is people that kind of try to help when they haven't been asked.
Are they really helping, though? I think you get that a lot with career advice from people who are of a generation where career was actually a thing. It's not really anymore.
It's gone quiet.
Right.
Sorry, I think I'm cutting out a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Checking our connection. Yeah, that seems fine. Okay. I don't know.
I could plug in the Dubry.
No, you don't need to.
I should have done it anyway. I'll give you the hard line.
Very.
I can't get it in.
That's quite disturbing.
You're about to enter the Matrix. Pardon me. But I mean, there are. I mean, I don't want to get too. What would you call it? I don't know. I could imagine situations that would potentially justify at least considering disowning someone.
Well, you've been in a situation, I think, with your dad. I don't know how aware you are of this. I believe you've talked about this a fair bit.
Fucking hell. Some of my dad's side of my family, fuck.
Oh, I mean, yeah. But your dad specifically, I wouldn't blame you for not forgiving him, but that's a thing that I think it would be if you have forgiven him, that has been beneficial for you. That makes sense.
Right, so this... Sorry, I wasn't listening to that because I was thinking about the funeral.
Okay.
My dad's funeral, right? I'm not kind of trying to bring the tone down or make anyone depressed or anything, but what would you think in this situation? My dad's funeral, and it's the first time I see, I'm not going to say who it is, but a member of my family. It's the first time I've seen them for 30 years because I've had very little to do with his side of the family at the funeral. And the first thing they do the first thing they say to me is to warn me not to believe anything that one of the other family members says because they're always lying. They don't even say hello. They just come up and tell me, I mean, who the fuck does that? Do you know what I mean? What would you think if somebody, I mean, I think
it's like a pit of snakes.
I mean, immediately to me, the first thought was, right, I can't believe anything you say. because,
Yeah.
But it's just, I just don't understand how some people are that naive that they don't realise that it's so obvious you can see through that shit straight away if you've got an ounce of intelligence.
But like, I think that is a thing of, I think it is like a generation that has basically grown up with that sort of abusive, in a lot of ways, behavior as being fairly normal.
The thing is, though, I mean, going back to that thing about disowning and stuff, obviously, I mean, I had quite a disturbed childhood in that there was physical abuse going on, and my parents split up when I was about 7. But it was a different time in that, you know, depression and mental illness wasn't recognised then nearly as much as it is now. So, but the thing about it, what I'm trying to get round to is that I actually, especially now he's gone, kind of not. I mean, I forgive him for it, but I kind of understand how difficult it must have been, and I don't know. It's a confusing kind of. I suppose I feel a need to try to understand the position he was in. I mean, I can say that, you know, I could have acted in a lot of the same ways, but we lived in different eras, and who's to say? You know, nobody knows that in that situation, going through the sorts of things that somebody went through in the situation they're in, that they wouldn't do the same things. You know. I can say that I haven't and I don't, but at the same time, you know, nowadays, if you're getting depressed or suffering from stress or anxiety, you can go to the doctors and you will be listened to
some extent.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of debate whether I think it's called CAMS. I've heard a lot of people go to CAMS and they just don't do what they're supposed to do. They mistreat their patients, and they're really not very good at what they do.
Is that more for younger people, though?
Yeah, it's.
I mean, obviously, it's serious that is a situation there, but I think for adults, certainly the situation's improved.
Well, I mean, you can be medicated a lot more easily as an adult, which is somewhat helpful in some circumstances. It depends. I think it has a long way to go still, but it's certainly better than it would have been where I don't know how many people in the 70s would have even heard of depression. Probably the most awareness of mental health issues they would have had is the likes of shell shock, given that a lot of the previous generation would have suffered that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd kind of heard it referred to as manic depression a long time before I realised that, or heard it referred to as bipolar disorder.
Yeah, I mean, the way these things are talked about sort of change as we understand them better, just to give it a better name. Like, an example might be, I think it probably would have been previously referred to as multiple personality disorder. Or if you're doing it in a sort of pop culture way, probably schizophrenia, even though that has nothing to do with it. But now it's sort of referred to, I think, as dissociative identity disorder, or DID. And I know people who have that, like, and it's sort of a interesting place with identity. It's I think it's quite an alien thing to a lot of people. I mean, it would have been in horror films for quite a long time. It's sort of like, oh, they turn violent when they're this person, but it's just...
It must be scary. I mean, how would you know? I mean, like, how would you find out? You know, I mean, say, for instance, if I had multiple personalities, how would this one that I'm inhabiting at the moment, if you like, how would that person find out about the others? There's a really good... Have you seen any of a series called Homeland?
No.
It's I'm trying to remember the name of the actress, but she's really good at portraying somebody with multiple personality. No, with bipolar, I think, but she's on medication and that. But it's that kind of. Is it that? Oh, I'm trying to think. I can't remember if it's the same program, but that kind of.
I mean,
switch between two different characters.
Get it to a certain extent where...
Does it just feel like a blackout, or...?
No, I don't know, but I dissociate to some extent where I feel like detached from some events that happen in my life. And I think that's a reaction that probably a lot of people have to certain types of events, but then there's also complications depending on... mental health issues that you already have before those events, and you kind of get into this confusing thing where, like, I was talking to one of my friends who has, I think, DAD, and saying about, like, memory is quite an interesting point for that, because you'll remember things very differently to how they actually happened, and, like, there's quite... I mean, it's not, like, to the point where it's just like, oh, this was a boring thing that happened, but there are a fair amount of events in my life that, like, thinking back, I don't really like to remember.
Do you know, a lot of these things to me seem like they're a matter of intensity, of things that everyone experiences to a certain extent, but not as... explicitly, if you like. I don't know, because I mean, everybody plays a different kind of character depending on what environment they're in. You know, I'm a different person at Bridge Club from where I am.
So I've one of my family members is a psychiatrist, and he makes computer programs which incite emotion in people. So one of them was a game of chance of you click a tree and you get some fruit. And the fruit on the tree is either displayed as blue or orange. And some trees will display more fruit, but that doesn't specifically mean you're going to get more fruit from that tree. And the color of fruit might determine how much fruit you get. And so the aim of the game is trees coming towards you, you click on a tree and you get so much fruit, and you try and get the most fruit as you can. And so you click, you go through them, and then you get to the final tree, and then you do that. And then there's a wheel that comes up. And it's like a jackpot wheel, where if you get loads, you can double your fruit, or you lose all your fruit. And the game was either rigged or not rigged. I can't remember specifically, but you'd sometimes lose all your fruit, and sometimes you'd gain some fruit or lose some fruit, or whatever. And it was tested on people because there's a spectrum between depression and bipolar disorder. I think it's like depression, borderline personality, and bipolar. And so if you were to lose all your fruit and you had depression, your emotion would go from, if you had loads of fruit, straight down to 0, and you'd feel shit for the rest of the day. And then borderline personality disorder, you'd get a bit more of a high when you had all the fruit, and then you'd get even more of a low, but it lasts a bit shorter, but you'd still have a worse low. And bipolar would mean you have really high of getting all the fruit, and really, really low of getting all the fruit. of losing all the fruit, sorry. And then you have a chance to win it back. And depending on where on the spectrum you are, your emotion will be different. Even though that's a very simplified version of what it actually is, it shows quite interesting description of how emotion with different stuff like that works. So I wasn't sure I forgot what my point was going to be, but anyway.
That's perfectly fitting for our podcast. That kind of chimes in with antidepressants kind of level things out, don't they? It's kind of it's not that it kind of dulls things, but you don't get the lows, but also you don't get as high highs either. It just kind of makes the peaks and troughs kind of a bit like that coronavirus thing, just leveling things out, that they were trying to do at the beginning. So it's kind of, I mean, I can imagine it feeling like it being a decision about sort of, when you're on medication like that, you've kind of got to sacrifice the highs so that you don't have to go through the lows as much.
I mean, there'll be some people who, although the highs there are exciting and enjoyable, like they cause issues for them because like they get too excitable, they do things, I guess, that other people aren't.
This sounds familiar.
Liking because I don't know. No, but it is like a.
What are they trying to do a whole podcast in a silly voice?
You end up sort of trying to level that off
the way
to
you
a way
to
that's
sure.
Acceptable to others in a way, I guess. I mean, there is a certain amount of that is for your own benefit, but a lot of that is just making you sort of normal enough to function in our society that requires you to be of a certain kind of person to do most things.
What has any of this to do with family, though?
I don't know. We were talking about mental health issues.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like a lot of families, there's like potentially undiagnosed issues there because you just go further and further back. It's very hard to get diagnoses, especially as an adult. So you end up with not being able to really identify the issue there, and it just sort of continues because that's how it's always been. And
it's a weird one. I mean, I think in general, most of us in our family have been pretty lucky, and that even though there are political differences and differences of opinion on things, most of us can kind of work through things, even though it can be a bit rocky sometimes. But there are one or two people who you just think you can see never actually speaking to them again, or them never speaking to you again, because of the differences in opinion being irreconcilable, really, seemingly. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. We won't name names, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not sort of prying or wanting any details from you, but do you have anyone? Does that ring true for you? Is there any? Is there? I think most families probably have that. I mean, it's difficult because different families have a different kind of perception of what is deemed to be normal kind of levels of contact. Because of the way my family split when I was quite young, we were never really in touch with what we would consider to be my extended family. I never really was in contact with my dad's kind of family, my cousins and stuff on that side, and my uncles and stuff. And my mum's family, there wasn't that many of them, but some people have quite a big sort of in contact extended family, don't they? I would say Mum's side of our family are quite well connected, relatively speaking, in terms of, I don't know.
Yeah. So what I'd say is my family. I know this will come as a shock, but I am nothing like I am in person than I am online. So I'm not as confident. I'm not as I don't make as many jokes. I'm much more quiet, and so a lot of my family is like that as well. And although we have a Zoom meeting each week, like we just had one at 5 p.m. today, we're not exceptionally connected.
Yeah. I would say with you, that Battle of the City that we did, I saw a side of you that I've never seen any other time during that.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you seemed really kind of confident and kind of active, and really kind of. I think a lot of people were slightly pleasantly surprised by that, weren't they?
Is it sort of like a? Do you sort of bring that side of yourself, if you don't mind me asking, around like competition?
Oh yeah. I get very competitive sometimes, and it brings out a different aspect of my life, I guess, where I get a bit louder, and sometimes I find myself a bit annoying.
Do you do much gaming? You mentioned Minecraft.
Yeah, so I play a lot of games. Well, I say a lot of games. I meant I play a lot of one game, which is Minecraft. But
right.
That's what I play at the moment. But I've played a lot of other games in the past, like Portal and Portal 2 are some of my favorites.
Portals are excellent.
See, I don't put like 1,000 hours into one game like I see a lot of people doing, but I have way too big a Steam library. I think there's over 250 games on there, some of which I've never played.
Do you like cake?
The cake is a lie, by the way.
Don't believe it.
That's the best thing about playing in a wedding band.
You get lots of cake.
Yeah. And stovies.
Also, they're having an outdoor wedding. You just get to sit inside all day, getting paid.
That has happened, yeah. Yeah, I've been hired as a kind of drinks reception pianist. Got to be careful how you say that. And with it being really nice weather, they've done all of the kind of champagne and what do you call it, canapes and what have you outside with the photos, and I've just basically been paid quite well to sit inside, pretty much on my own, for a couple of hours. And obviously they're really busy, so they don't really sort of think, here, hang on a minute, we're paying this guy loads to play the piano and he's just sat in there on his own. It's like, well, I mean, I'll play the piano for you, but there's nobody here, so...
Yeah.
So, yeah. Family.
There is a sort of... I guess since my area of study is biology, it would be worth talking about the sort of evolutionary roots of how families even developed as an idea. I mean, it's sort of the basis of our whole society.
Yeah, I mean, like, in general, who do you think of as being your family? Like, how far does that go? And when you speak about your family, how far are you talking about?
I mean, it'll vary. There's like rings of this stuff, I suppose. So like the immediate sort of household family of, I consider probably more one of my sisters as being part of this because I've lived with her for a lot longer. But my other sister is also, I guess, part of this, and her daughter is. And then there's sort of my grandparents, which I'd be considered to be like a ring out of that, but still fairly close. And then there's just like aunts and uncles, and then people that I only see at weddings. or
Yeah.
funerals.
Which is weird, actually, because those people that you would normally only see at weddings and funerals, I've actually seen a lot more of them during the pandemic because of things like family quizzes online and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what happened with us as well. The Zoom calls started because of COVID.
I mean,
and we've just kept on
people that
going.
live in Spain that we would probably only have spoken to maybe once every 4 or 5 years, maybe in the past.
yeah. I mean, I assume the last time we...
And it's been like a fortnightly kind of conversation with them.
Yeah.
Yay for the pandemic.
Yeah, it's this weird social situation where, like, I mean, I've formed some pretty close friendships purely online, knowing that, I mean, I think I've met up with a few people. I have met you in person briefly.
Yeah.
When we were cutting up worms.
We dissected her worms. Yeah.
Oof. Very
That was so awful. I did such a bad job. I literally ripped my worm in half at one point. So,
were they alive?
No, I don't think they're.
I wish they were.
Joking. No, I never. Kids eat worms sometimes, don't they? No, there was a one. I think it was an urban myth kind of thing about worms crawling off in 2 directions if you cut them in half.
They have regenerative. Well, earthworms do, because basically beyond their head, it's basically just the same going on and on and on, and they're separated into lots of different segments.
Yeah, but it's only one end of them that will survive, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, if you absolutely mangle it, it won't survive, but if you just cut off like its tail, that will just grow again, probably.
But that was one of those things when I was a kid that you really, it was widely believed that you would end up with 2 worms.
Here's a question. So I recently did you hear about the Oscar nominee thing, My Octopus Teacher?
I briefly remember.
I've heard of it, but that's all I know.
It was on in the background at some point.
Yeah, it's about this guy who went down to a beach every day and he swam around, and it's like a David Attenborough documentary, just not with David Attenborough. It's just like this single guy going to this single place on the beach, and he swims around and he finds his octopus all curled up and loads of shells like that, and he essentially becomes really close with this octopus, and it's like he cares so much for it. Would that constitute as his family? Like we have pets.
Yeah,
you constitute them as your family.
People regard their cats and dogs as part of the family, don't they?
Yeah.
And then especially with cats, they just fuck off and move in with someone else when they feel like it.
Traitorous bastards. They'll eat you when you die. If you have lots of cats, they'll just...
Yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it? Like a lady died and her cat, and she was in there for like 3 days and a cat started eating her.
Yeah, I think they form less close relationships in terms of that than like dogs would.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the fun thing about cats and dogs is cats are hardwired versus dogs, which are soft-wired in terms of the brain. So I set up this wildlife camera in our garden, and we saw this cat go past it, and they walked the same route going out and into the garden every single day. And you can see the dogs are varied, so they have more decisions of where they go, whether the cat has to stick to this straight line and it has to do this. It has a certain reaction for a certain thing, whereas dogs can vary their reaction.
They're kind of psychotic,
so it's
aren't they?
like,
I wonder if dogs are more intelligent in that case, or at least have bigger brains. I'm not sure.
I think dogs are usually more intelligent than cats, but cats have more like instinctual things, like the hardwiring of what they need to do in certain situations.
I love that video of the cats and the cucumbers.
I haven't seen this video.
My god! Right, okay. Cats being scared by cucumbers. Look it up afterwards. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Is that why at 3 a.m. for some reason it's always 3 a.m. cats just go absolutely fucking batshit insane, like clockwork.
You're remembering being at
Yeah.
Nan's house, aren't you?
Yes.
My nan's my nan. Your nan. My mum is a cat lady.
Well,
How many cats?
They come and go because I don't think she actually owns that many herself.
She's one of those that feeds the neighbours' cats,
Yeah.
Okay.
and sometimes they kind of adopt her and move in.
But yeah, for some reason, just middle of the night, just go absolutely insane.
Yeah, what is that about? I mean, what in a natural sense? What is the natural instinct? What does that purpose does that serve in an evolutionary sense? Like to charge around like a fucking lunatic.
I mean, there's a lot of things that like they're not particularly bad for you, so like this isn't gonna like end your bloodline here, but so it's just sort of stuck around. But I don't know.
Maybe it's to scare away predators. They just hear such an awful sound coming off in their distance. Like, oh, no, I'm not going over there, mate.
I mean, it might be like some confusion due to like the artificial light and stuff like that. Like they're not used to nighttime being like that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry about that.
But generally, in terms of like
I
how
seem to become a cat.
I'm going to start charging around like a knob in a minute.
I mean, mostly how family has sort of arisen is to do with like parental care, essentially. I mean, there's a lot of species that will just essentially, because they have so many offspring, they don't need to spend that much energy just going and looking after them for this long period of time. But like mammals, typically, I mean, like example, humans, you're at max getting out one a year, probably about thereabouts. So,
Well, I mean, it was 11 months with your sister, but
one-ish a year is sort of the upper limit of that. So if they die, then that's quite a significant blow to like your genetic costs, I suppose. So you need to invest quite a lot of energy in keeping them alive, which is why they develop for quite a long time.
yeah.
And we have milk glands in, I think, all mammals.
Yeah, what are men's nipples for?
I think some men can lactate slightly. It's just
Have you tested this out?
well, it's not particularly developed tissue, so. But it's just sort of like the genetics are there for these basic building blocks to be there. I mean, we still develop a tail during development. It gets deleted afterwards.
Oh, I know. Coccyx.
Yeah, I guess.
I think I had a fractured or broken coccyx when I was younger. I had to take a cushion to school with me.
Oh.
And the teachers thought it was an ace idea, but I got the piss ripped out of me by the other kids. Because kids are bastards. And I'm training to be a teacher and go back into schools. What a fucking nightmare is that going to be? Something tells me I won't be having these kinds of conversations with them.
I hope not.
But I am going to be a music teacher, so you never know.
Oh, yeah. We had music lessons in our secondary school just before GCSE, and they always sent us off to these music rooms. And it's such a bad idea because you can lock the music rooms from the inside and you can't unlock them from the outside. And so we would just lock them. The teacher wouldn't be able to get in.
Why would they do that? Why would anyone designing a school do that?
Well, I'm guessing it's for the purpose of practicing alone and being like isolated so you can practice, but
just to like sort of keep other musicians out because they're dangerous people.
well, you need space to and like a quiet room to do your own practice, I guess. I mean, the percussionist
Yeah,
is thrown in with everyone else, but you know.
yeah, I get the importance of what is it, like
Privacy.
private practice, but when it's in the school and you're right next to a maths classroom in A levels, and there's this one trumpeter who would always come when we were in our math lessons,
Oh, no,
and I get that you need to practice to get good at it, but they were bloody awful, and it was really funny.
They had to do lots of practice, obviously.
Like, yeah, every like 3 seconds it would squeak.
You look like you're about to say something really fucking annoying.
I wasn't going to.
It was just somebody because he was talking about trumpet practice, and you just had this smirk on your face, like you were about to say something.
No, I was going to say they might have been doing that deliberately to put you off, just to like troll you.
Yeah, probably.
Have we spoken much about families? I don't think we're getting invaded by any of the After Dark Podcast Network family, such as they are.
But yeah, I think. I mean, sort of the origin of like how human families sort of started would have been in how a lot of other primates do that.
They have. I know. There are some sort of tribes where they don't actually have family units as such. Like kids are generally the kind of not property, but you know, the responsibility of the whole tribe.
Well, I mean, that is sort of the idea of a family as like an extended family, and really communities sort of developing. I mean, I think chimpanzees form, or it might have been bonobo. I think chimpanzees are a bit more aggressive because
Bonobos have orgies, don't they?
well, yeah, that is.
So do dolphins.
Dolphins get high.
They can sort of afford to be a bit less aggressive and a bit more social. With, I suppose, their. I mean, you do get, I guess, social units formed by pretty unintelligent animals. Bees are fucking stupid, and yet they do some very clever stuff altogether. Similarly, probably with ants. But generally with mammals, you got quite big brains, and they're all squidgy and folded.
Yeah.
And but it is this sort of idea of like protecting your own genetics, and I think this is part of the reason that like homosexuality genetically develops, is there is sometimes an evolutionary benefit to having people or individuals who can fulfill a care responsibility without having their own kids, which is why homosexuality increases, at least in humans, the more brothers you have.
Hang on.
But so is that like, that's almost like homosexuality is a genetic thing?
Yeah, there is a supposed male-loving gene, at least. It's not necessarily homosexuality specifically. It's a very complex thing, but you know, that's the simplified version of it. Of you're more likely to be attracted to men if you have this certain gene switched on. It's in everyone, I think, or humans at least. But it's just turned on for certain people. If not to be too suggestive.
Do you think Bridge Club is a family?
I mean, it's a society.
I think it's a hierarchy.
Do you? where do we exist?
Right now, my Elise is the dictator. No, sorry, Jim's the dictator. And he dishes out punishments for the people that do stuff bad.
This is a very specific audience that we're doing this to now.
Well, my lease is not the dictator anymore.
Yeah, I'm on committee now. So are you, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the treasurer.
I don't know how much I'm going to be able to attend next year. I mean, I would like to be attending now. I think I'm probably going to attend more once end of year assignments are finished, depending on when I'm working. But next year I'm on placements for like 18 weeks of the year, which I think I'm likely to be occupied until 5 o'clock at whatever school I'm at every weekday.
Yeah.
So it might be quite difficult, but we shall see. I mean, I'm shit at bridge anyway, so nobody's gonna suffer.
You have to practice, though. This is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
You have to scour the cheat sheet until you know everything off by heart and that.
I don't know.
And then once you do that,
After a year of doing it, I'm beginning to get that sort of intuitive sense of it.
yeah,
there's one or two things that I just now know, but there's so much more to. It's going to be fun though. So, I mean, we've managed to keep going for an hour and 37.5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots to talk about.
Go on then.
Oh God. But like this sort of idea, it has of. I mean, it is essentially just a unit that cares for one another.
Do you know what's
in
weird?
quite a close way.
Weird, totally weird for us at the moment, me and Mum, is I mean we are gonna be having our 20th wedding anniversary this year in December.
Ooh.
So basically, and it's weird when you go to like when you leave the house for a night, maybe sometimes occasionally you're not allowed to do that. Oh shit. Should we start again?
I've already confessed to some things.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's fine.
It's a weird situation in that for 20 years we have basically had kids around. I mean, even when me and Mum met, she had a 6-year-old already. So we have very few sort of days over the last 20 years where it's just been the two of us. And it's weird to like when, that family kind of unit takes over, but it's kind of, it is your existence while you're a family. I mean, it's been your whole existence, obviously, since you were born, you've been in that kind of family environment. But once you're going to be in a situation where you're potentially going to be moving in with other people. So you're still going to have a surrogate family, I suppose. You're going to have a family of people that you kind of live with. But that kind of the way that changes is kind of strange to get used to when it's been for so long, when it's been the same kind of. I mean, it took a while to get used to both of your sisters when they moved out at different times. It takes some adjustment. But then when it's the last one, it's it's strange.
I mean, I assume. I think I remember you saying you're from Oxfordshire.
I am indeed.
Are you down there now?
Yeah.
Cool.
Hopefully coming back up on the 26th.
Nice. But was that?
Are you anywhere near Oxford itself, or?
Yeah, I'm like to the east of it, southeast, like about 2 miles.
All right.
I did one of my trumpet diploma exams in Oxford. I think it would have been in one of the uni buildings somewhere, but it's really nice place.
What do you think of Oxford?
What I've seen of it, very picturesque, very old. I mean, the bits that I know, the bits that I've seen are basically what you see on. Have you seen his Dark Materials? The TV series?
Yeah.
It's that kind of ancient, kind of university, kind of.
I think it's
old.
Yeah,
stuff.
second
That's
university in Europe?
that's about 10% of Oxford,
Yeah, I was going to
and the rest of it is much different.
suburban kind of.
Well, there's a mix and match. So if you ever go to Kidlington, which I think is a bit north of Oxford, you'll see the council estate version of Oxford and all the where all the workers would have been.
I mean, much like
Cambridge,
I suppose it's got a reputation, if you don't know the place, of being quite upmarket, simply because it's got the reputation of being like one of the top universities in the country. So it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really follow, does it? But it's got that reputation of being very kind of academic and intelligent, and
I mean, I guess
therefore
it is
well-to-do.
A bit more like an upper class sort of university, just because I imagine the fees are quite high. But generally, I think students are sort of seen as this sort of elite group when, like, most of us haven't got any fucking money.
Yeah, that's similar to Oxford actually. So Cambridge is the elitist, whereas apparently Oxford is allowing lots more people in now, whereas Cambridge is much less, as much a higher.
Cambridge is more of the Eton, is it?
I think I have a friend in Cambridge, and he said that there's not very many people from Eton, but
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, but I guess that's who he's met. I'm not sure if there's a thing, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, what I was gonna ask is sort of what was that experience like? I suppose, like moving away from your family up to quite far away, I guess, up in Aberdeen, unless you have family here already.
Actually, what year are you in?
I'm in the first year.
So have you actually moved at all yet?
Yeah, so I went up to Aberdeen for the first term, and I came back, and I've been here for the second term. I'm hopefully going up on the 28th, 26th, 28th.
That must have been. I mean, it must have been a weird situation, because I mean, like, even though you were up here, based on what I know about the timetable that you had, I would imagine most of the time you were pretty isolated, and it was just an occasional, once or twice a week, maybe.
Got COVID at one point.
Did you?
Yeah. I couldn't smell and I couldn't taste for a bit, for like 2.5 weeks.
But you didn't have any sort of bad symptoms then, no?
No. But because of my job, I was able to get the COVID vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, which I highly recommend getting the Pfizer.
I've had, in fact, I had my second one 2 days ago.
Which did you get?
The AstraZeneca.
Yeah. But I think people who've had COVID before they get the jab get much more severe reaction to the jab because they already have the antibodies.
Oh, right.
So they're like, get out. And so I couldn't sleep for a night. I was just shivering. And
I've been I've sort of achy joints and headaches and tiredness. I actually felt quite ill on Friday night after I'd had the second shot, but that was like about 2 a.m. when I was still up doing video editing, and I hadn't had much to eat or drink for hours, so I thought, no, I better go to bed now. But in general, it hasn't hit me too bad. I mean, I've just had a bit of a bruised arm and achy joints and a headache.
I don't know if, because I'm still 17, so I don't know if I'm even like eligible to get the vaccine yet.
You're not yet eligible, no. You have to be 18 or over.
There'll probably be the Moderna one will probably be well rolled out by the time you're 18.
Hopefully. I'm also, it's quite an awkward time to be changing your name because I think that can cause some confusion on the system.
Yeah, did you hear about that person during the trials? He changed his name and he went to 6 different trials for the jab. So he got 6 different jabs.
Okay.
We'll collect all the jabs and I will have the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Just don't let him click his fingers.
Yeah, so during when you get the test or you get the actual vaccination, I think you have to give your NHS number or MRN number or whatever. But during the trials, he didn't have to do that. So he just made up a name and went in as that name. And he got 6 different jabs.
Okay.
I don't know how healthy that is. I assume it would be.
People drink cocktails, don't they?
Yeah, you shouldn't drink drug cocktails.
Well, no, you don't have to drink drug cocktails. Well, I mean, alcohol is a drug, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's like
without
he's reaching for
knowledge.
They are reaching for the mead. I apologise publicly for misgendering you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh dear. Oh.
Do you get the sense of medievalness from drinking that mead?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Well, I'm fully evil, so it's kind of. I think we've exhausted that.
I think it's a lot clearer than you would have gotten back in the day.
I think it would have been body parts floating in it and stuff.
But it's just kind of bits of honeyness in it, like
bees.
I wonder how many families drank mead back in the day.
I don't know. It sounds like it should be kind of rich people.
Yeah, I assume it would either be reserved for special occasions or mainly for like aristocrats, but I don't know.
Or religious people. Don't know why. I
thought red wine would be religious.
Yeah,
I think it is technically wine.
That makes me laugh.
Like honey wine.
The number of times, like as a trumpet player, I've had gigs in sort of church environments where we've been doing like fanfares or, for instance, like midnight mass on Christmas Eve or whatever, where we'd be up in the gallery and doing like what do you call it, obligato bits for the descant parts for the Christmas carols and stuff. And always in the vestries at these places, there are cases and cases and cases of red wine stacked up.
Be worth a lot
for communion. Well, I'm assuming it's for communion.
Are they vintage red wine?
I have no idea.
Just like
I obviously didn't take any, so I wouldn't.
You're going to be drinking the blood of Christ. You would hope it's good quality.
Yeah. Can't you drink even though you're underage when you go to church?
It's a bit vampire-y, isn't it?
I assume so. I wouldn't know.
Because
I am unable to enter a church because I will burn up if I set foot.
That is true, actually. Yeah,
it's a shame.
And again, it went quiet.
It's the lag, I assume. I don't know.
What did you call him?
What?
What did you call him?
The lag.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't call you a slag. He's the slag.
Oh, I'll have you know, I'm your father and I demand some respect.
I think going back to well before about owing something to your family.
What's that about? I mean, apart from if you've lent them some money or something.
Like, well, you were talking about, do you owe, like, I guess, to an extent, unconditional love to your family, but respect is an interesting thing that I think a lot of parents expect, or a lot of just generally older people expect of people younger than them.
I think there's a confusion with, and I think it's a generational thing, between respect and fear.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a respectful relationship.
Conflation.
Where you're allowed more say than the other person in that interaction, I suppose.
I think it's an interesting one because there has to be a sliding scale that I think the parent is responsible for kind of overseeing at what point that sliding scale is at any given time. Because obviously, as a very young child, there are certain responsibilities that the parent has to take on them. But there's got to be a kind of a give and take. You've got to allow your child to kind of grow up and have freedoms without endangering themselves, which is kind of, well, yeah.
No comment.
Well, exactly. It's kind of, but beyond a certain point, there's sod all you can do. It's kind of,
yeah.
You've got to kind of set as good an example as you can, and hope that you've done the best job you can.
But I think it's sort of providing in whatever way you can, a safe place to
not just kind of follow them into university.
I mean, you kind of have. Like,
Yeah,
I went to an audition for
and I thought,
because I wasn't sure
to uni.
I wasn't sure what course I wanted to do, so I did an audition for a music course.
To be fair,
and you just went, "Oh, I could do this." Like, yeah, I could go into teaching.
But to be fair, actually, it was a damned big relief at the time because we were in serious shit financially because the government had basically just taken away all of our income from disability allowance, and we, in the space of a couple of weeks, we had basically lost about 11.5 grand a year in income, combined between disability issues, disability benefits, and the sort of the ensuing carers allowance that was kind of linked to that. And it came because there was two situations going on, wasn't there? There was because now your mum, my wife, is on full disability, which is kind of a big relief. It took years fighting to actually get it, but at that time we were dealing with that at the same time that the DWP completely took away everything you were entitled to as an autistic child.
With a friend earlier because they were talking about getting a national insurance number,
and I didn't have a choice, really. That came along.
Yeah.
As it was like suddenly when I was sat waiting for you in that audition, I thought, hang on, this might actually be the only way that we can survive financially because I'll be able to get student funding.
If you've
and
not
then
dealt
a teacher's salary afterwards.
With the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions before, fuck them. Honestly, Jesus Christ, they are the fucking worst. I mean, I'm sure there's worse governmental departments because there always are, but Jesus Christ, fuck them so hard. Sorry, I just need to get that out of my system. They are... See, the thing with that was under the Labour government before 2010, that thing was called Disability Living Allowance. That was what I got that 11,000 a year for having autism.
No, you didn't get that much.
Well, you got that, I guess.
You got a certain amount, which they took away. But because of that, we then lost the carers allowance that goes with it, that's awarded to whoever's looking after you, plus the premium that's applied to tax credits for disability within the family. So,
but in terms
that
of
was just the total.
The law, that should be a lifetime award because I'm not going to suddenly stop having autism. Unlike like if you have a chronic condition with your legs, for example, you could get surgery to treat that. You can't do that for autism, and I wouldn't want to if you could. So that should be a lifetime award, but because they changed the name of it to a personal independence payment, that's a whole different system. So they could just say, oh, I'm not disabled enough anymore to get this because I had improved from a lot of personal work. I guess it's a weird thing, and I hate.
It sounds like they're reaching for loopholes.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much they'll use They don't consider mental health like
Do you know what
at
I found
all.
hilarious as well? Not in a literal sense, but at the assessment centre for disability in Aberdeen that we went to, the toilet facilities for able-bodied people were completely accessible from the reception area, but if you wanted to use a disabled toilet, you had to get through a locked door, which involved trying to find a receptionist who could unlock it for you, and they weren't actually there. So you couldn't actually access the disabled toilets in the Disability Assessment Centre, which is kind of...
It's crazy. I mean, you think about the people who design these things and put it into motion, and you're just like...
It's weird because, like with the rest of society, you kind of think to yourself, either that there's one of two things going on. Either it's been deliberately designed to be as inadequate as possible or obstructive as possible, or everyone who's involved in it is just completely incompetent. Either way,
I think it's a mixture, quite frankly.
Shitstorm.
They're both deliberately vindictive, I guess, in terms of that, but also just completely unable to do their jobs. But
that's the whole kind of facade, isn't it, that the Tory party have at the moment, is that kind of bumbling kind of idiocy of, you know, it's almost like hiding deliberate shit by pretending to be incompetent.
I mean,
it's like you can get away with being incompetent because people will forgive you if you look like you've tried your best.
These are people who have probably through a lot of shady dealings gotten through some very high like standard education and gotten out of that with the idea of becoming like part of this like political elite. Like, a significant amount of our prime ministers have come directly from Eton, which is just disturbing that one school has produced so much of our power in this country.
I do like a nice Eton mess, though.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably like a sex act in that college.
Involving pigs, probably.
Probably. It is this sort of like comedic... sort of parody level idea of obscene wealth. It's we're a weird country, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's just I'm lost for words, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Anyway, we were supposed to be talking about family, but we went on a bit of a tangent.
I wonder what the original Eton family's like.
I would have to... I don't know.
We're coming up on 2 hours, so I'm assuming we're going to be winding up sort of soon. But yeah. What do we need to address before we finish?
It's sort of... I mean, I think to some degree, in terms of like a progression of like evolution, like typically you would have quite isolated communities that, in terms of primates, I think it's like up to about 50 individuals for bonobos, which are probably our closest relative, thereabouts.
Bonobos? They're the ones that have orgies. Yeah. Why do we not have orgies?
We do have orgies.
I don't.
There was a Japanese TV show where they got like 200 couples to have sex in the same room. And apparently that's the biggest orgy ever recorded, but it's also like the most awkward one.
Yeah, I mean, from what you said, I don't know if this is the case, but that sounds very much like still couples. Like, I mean,
yeah. So it's I think it's the Guinness Book of World Records for the orgy, but it's not like everyone having sex with everyone else.
No, that's what I think of an orgy.
The definition. the definition of an orgy is a large group of people having sex. It doesn't mean that they're all having sex with each other.
No.
Apparently, which is why it got the record for it.
Wow.
I mean, I think couples go to orgies. I don't know. I'm not particularly into the
They're
community.
called swingers, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This feels weird to talk about with my dad.
Why have you?
No.
Did you bump into any doggers in Seaton Park?
No, we just bumped into some skater kids and someone almost broke their skateboard. I mean, I think they make a big deal about, like, if you were walking alone in Seaton Park because it's quite dark and anyone could be out there, but, like...
I mean...
Yeah, I was walking through Seaton Park one night and the guy was just offering free alcohol to people.
Free alcohol?
But, if you're in a big group, you're probably all right. Like, I don't know.
So... Anyway, what's happening next? Let's look forward to the future. It's Breaking Borders in a couple of weeks, isn't it? That'll be Portugal Part 2.
Yeah, yes.
What's the next Bollocks?
I have no fucking clue. I don't plan ahead for these things.
Don't you?
I think it's age.
Is it?
Do you have a list? Do you have a list of all the things you're going through?
We do.
Yeah. We have various spreadsheets and databases and it's all the cluster.
Wow, fucking hell, I've just gone onto Blackboard. Sorry, wrong favourite.
Oh, that gives me nightmares, that site.
I'm not going to put you on the spot on the podcast, but I think we should have you on again sometime. And we won't force you to buy us mead. Although if you want to, you're quite welcome to.
I'll have to get myself some because I've never had it before. So.
It's very nice. I have down here... Yeah.
I'd love to come on.
You were right. Age. We could talk about whiskey.
Well, what I was talking about is...
Slag off old people.
In terms of humans, we're quite unusual in that we have a very interconnectedness in the modern age, at least. We have extremely large communities. We've just stopped recording audio.
Oh, did they do that?
I don't think so. I think Logic just did that. Hold on. There we go. We're back on.
Well,
right.
That was an odd moment. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Yeah, we sort of got this very large community. I mean, it is a global community in a sense, but because we don't know that many people, I guess.
Nobody likes us.
No, but I think
isn't there?
Sorry.
Yeah,
you both should be very sorry.
You go first.
No. I'm going first.
I think it's something like an average person can remember 1,000 people in their lifetime.
Who knows an average person though?
I've
got an itchy nostril.
I mean, there'll be variability in that because some
can remember 1,000 people.
Yeah. Thereabouts. I don't know. I'm not particularly citing this as a scientific.
No,
article.
you're making it up, aren't you? As you go along.
It's probably one of these factoids, but
you're like the QI elves, non-verified edition.
It's it's something that you can't remember that many faces before they start sort of merging together, I guess.
I do remember something about statistics to do with people's number of friends that you've got on Facebook. I think it's something between 200 and 300, I think, before it actually becomes unrealistic because you can't actually remember that many people.
But I think...
oh my god!
Yeah, it's also a thing.
Sorry
I
about
think
that.
The average person, their friends have more friends than they have.
I don't have any friends.
Well, okay. That's just
Just say something for fuck's sake, because there's empty silence. At least argue with me.
No, you don't have any friends. You're a sad, lonely wanker.
Well, why else would I be doing a podcast with my child?
We've got Tom.
Yeah,
We've got Tom here. Sorry, we're just having an existential crisis that we usually
We're having a
have in the
family
middle of
moment.
I feel like I'm intruding a bit.
No, it's fine.
We like intruders.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know what anything means that I say. I know that usually when you've got to the end of a 2-hour podcast and you've been drinking all the way through, it's wise to start taking everything with a pinch of salt.
Okay. But yeah, like...
This is a point at which they just keep trying to make sense about stuff. Or come up with serious points.
We've got a very sort of unusual social situation in which, like, we've formed... I mean, like, the UK is an example, like...
Do you know what's weird?
No, we're a country of 65 million people. You can't know all those people, right? But you have some connection to them because you're born in the same country. Legally, you are at least somewhat similar to those people.
One of my favourite musicals of all time was one that didn't do very well because it was poorly managed by the theatre that it was at, Time the Musical. But anyway, Time, back in the 80s. But one of the songs in it, this is related, was One Human Family, basically. And there is that kind of concept that even though, I mean, you're talking about a country, but actually, really, we're a global human family, aren't we? I mean, there's 8 billion of us or whatever.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, we have some moral responsibility for, obviously, the people around us. But as they kind of get more and more disconnected or detached from us socially, it's easier to ignore the fact that we are actually all related.
But I mean, this is something in, like, the age of the internet is that, like, the way in which we're connected has changed very much. So, previously it would be like you feel very connected to the people in your town, at least. I don't know most of the people in my town. I know a few people on my street from, like, childhood, but I haven't talked to them in well over a year. Like, I don't really have...
You haven't been out of the house much in the past year. So.
I've been in Aberdeen out of the house, but I haven't been out and about in my town, really.
No. Apart from walking back from the station.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I don't really talk to anyone in my hometown outside of my house.
Tom has a hand on his nose.
Wait, what?
I don't know, for some reason...
It's the cursor.
Our cursor is a hand, and it was grabbing your nose. Why does it do that? Why does it turn into a hand when it was over?
It's about to select something, so whatever. Just
it's about to grab Tom's nose.
I don't... Hold on, do that again.
Do you know what I'm worried about, actually? Can you be a menger? Can you be a menger?
What?
Can you be a member?
Way in a manger.
Can you be a member of the bridge club without actually having time to play bridge? Because you're going to be social secretary, aren't you? Are you social secretary?
Yeah.
Which means you're going to be organising some piss-ups, no doubt.
Yeah.
Which aren't going to be when I'm at school, one would think.
I mean, you just have to pay for the membership. I think that's...
Well, you have to pay for the membership to be in any of the OUSA groups anyway, don't you? So it's a single membership fee for all the clubs. So.
Oh my God, I've joined 4 committees now. Please stop me. I am dying.
Well, you're a first year, so...
You're not supposed to join 4 committees in first year. It's not a good thing.
You're not going to have time when you get to 3rd and 4th year. So
no, okay, I guess.
Do it now while you can.
Yeah, but most
people...
people...
even get to the point where you take a sabbatical year so that you can do it.
Most people join, like, committees in 3rd year when they don't have time to do that, but they feel more responsible, I guess.
I don't feel like we've allowed Tom to speak enough.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's very nice hearing you talk.
Oh.
But yeah, how did you get into bridge? I'm not sure I've ever asked you.
It was basically in Freshers Week, we saw that they had a give it a go thing, and I was really excited about Freshers Week because I hadn't talked to anyone from literally months, so any socialization would have been appreciated. So I just basically did everything that sounded vaguely interesting in Freshers Week.
That was an interesting experience.
And you tagged along to that, I guess.
What the? That was a really interesting experience. Listening to you come up with your version of how it happened.
No, because I said like, oh, there's this like card game thing.
It's getting funnier. It's getting funnier all the time. Shall
You're
I
like,
tell it from my point of view now?
oh, you're like, oh yeah, no, yeah, card game, that would be good. Like, oh yeah, we could play cards together.
This is so funny.
I'm sure that would be like a fun event to go to.
So this is my perspective on it. Okay, when I was a teenager, on Saturdays, in my sixth form years, I used to go to a friend's house, and there was 4 of us that used to meet and play bridge.
Oh right. Did you?
Fraser was one of them. You know Fraser.
Yeah. Did you do it properly though?
No, not really. But not to the extent that the bridge club do. And one of the things that I remember about one of the afternoons that we were playing bridge was when the Hillsborough disaster happened, and we had it on the radio, and we stopped playing bridge, and it was very sad. That was a lasting moment in my mind. But anyway, yeah, when it came to the clubs that we were deciding what to join in Freshers Week, I said to you, do you fancy trying the bridge club? Because I've played bridge before and it's a really good game.
All right. I mean, I remember like specifically like mapping out the events on a calendar because I wanted to get the most out of Freshers Week.
But completely forgot that I'd played it, and
I don't remember you mentioning that.
See, that's what happens when with family. You tend to block certain things out.
That's just my life. Anyway, yes.
Thank goodness.
Are you fed up with us yet?
I'm sure the audience are. I'm sure the audience are.
Well, that's their problem, not ours.
I do need a wee. What was that?
Sorry, I felt like I just insulted the audience for no apparent reason.
We do that on a regular basis. It's fine.
You realise that actually being on this episode, our audience, with you being on this episode, our audience statistics have probably shrunk technically by about 10%.
Well, if you listen back to
I'm part of the audience?
You know, out of like narcissism or something.
I might end up listening to this one because I go back to just start delivering pizzas a week tomorrow, and it'll still be on my podcast queue. So I might end up listening to this in a couple of weeks. So I'm gonna give a shout out to my future self and say hello me in 2 weeks' time.
You're a wanker.
Is that you shouting yourself out?
No, I'm shouting to you.
But I'm here.
You, future John Paul II, is a wanker. I'm very pissed at this point.
This is what family respect is all about. You did this to us. You sent us mead. Admittedly, I've been drinking Champion as well, but
yeah,
we should
alcohol
do
only brings out the best in us.
Who does what?
Alcohol only brings out the best in us and nothing else.
Mm.
I apparently blacked out a few weeks ago. I don't know what I did.
That's not something to boast about.
Yeah. I remember some things I did, but all I know is the next morning I woke up and there was lipstick on my toothbrush, which was an interesting experience.
Could be worse.
Yeah. Interesting day. Anyway, yes. We should probably wrap up.
We should. We would love to keep going, but I have this thing about not going on for more than roughly 2 hours, and it usually goes over by quite.
Well, because you need a piss is the thing.
You have just kind of perceptibly kind of just stepped into merry territory in the last 10 minutes, haven't you?
Indeed. I'm having a great time. It's fun.
We should do this. We should do this at Bridge Club.
Yeah, you know, I used to drink a whole load of alcohol before going to bridge, just so that I'd be more lively.
Really?
Yeah, I had a beer before as well.
Damn.
Or during, sorry.
I didn't know that.
But I've stopped that recently.
Yeah, you kind of need your wits about you a bit.
Yeah, so there was a point where I was playing bridge every week, and then I stopped for about a month. I wasn't in the lessons, and then I just didn't drink after that because I actually wanted to learn the game.
See, that's the thing. I mean, we need that social aspect to it because there is that kind of game aspect to it. But
you're going to be in charge of funding the piss-ups I organise. Eventually.
I feel like most of us would probably, if it wasn't for the fact that we were having to concentrate on bridge, would probably be having a few drinks together anyway. But we shall see. Anyway, oh yeah, we should go and watch. What are we watching tonight? 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps.
Okay.
The Royal Family, and what's the other one?
Black Books. Have you seen any of those?
No.
Good.
I've watched Bridgerton though.
Oh.
Yeah. It's better than I thought it would be.
Interesting.
I've heard there's a lot of raunchy stuff in there.
That face.
Yes.
Oh my god.
The last like 3 episodes. The
That's
fifth
so
episode.
fabulous.
The fifth episode, they have sex about 12 times, like on separate occasions in that episode.
Like in the same night?
When
Not
you
in the
say
same
they,
night, but just one after the other. Like loads of
Okay.
different. It was amazing. It was genuinely amazing.
Anyway,
when
Yeah.
did you just do that to me?
because you were making fun of me.
I wasn't. I was complimenting you. I thought you would take that as a compliment.
It's drama.
Yeah. Let's go before I puddle.
I am getting to the stage where I start doing stupid stuff, so we
should carry on now.
wrap up
You haven't finished your drink yet.
before I confess.
Oh yeah.
How are you doing generally in this most cursed time?
You're not going to get up to Aberdeen
Yeah.
until September, are you? Or August?
I can apparently the lift of being able to stay overnight to a place you've travelled to into a different, like between England and Scotland's lifting on the 26th of April.
Mm.
So I'm going up hopefully on a Wednesday, which I think is the 28th of April.
All right.
And then I have to come back in the middle of May. So that's like 3 weeks
Yeah.
staying up in Aberdeen before I come back.
I think 17th of May something else is being lifted as well. I think we're going down
probably.
to an extra level down, level 2 maybe.
It isn't Nicola Sturgeon giving a talk in a few days?
She usually does it on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I just had the Zoom call earlier. My grandparents are Scottish, and they said that there's a Nicola Sturgeon talk happening in a few days or something.
Yeah, I think they've relaxed it to 6 people.
From 6 households, outdoors.
Yes. I've definitely
And the travel
been following
restrictions
the
have been
rules.
lifted as well.
Yeah, we'll have to meet up at some point and get pissed together. It's bound to happen.
Well, the pubs aren't open up here yet. England they are, but not up here.
Like in a house.
I think
I don't know.
outdoor population may be happening 26th of April as well, possibly. Yeah, outdoor alcoholification.
Which,
Yeah.
isn't that illegal?
I don't know what's legal and what's illegal nowadays.
I know there's been a thing about Edinburgh City Council basically saying, oh, you can't drink in parks, but people can basically drink in like private gardens. So it's kind of just basically, oh, you can't drink in public unless you're rich. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, shall we? Because I'm going to have an accident otherwise. Ugh.
No, I want you to
Yeah.
piss yourself live on air.
I know
not
someone who wasn't allowed to go to the loo in a science lesson. They got a urine infection because of it.
Ooh.
Cool. Did they sue?
They didn't.
They
It
should have.
wasn't too serious.
They should have.
But,
They should have sued.
oh, that's another thing. Our secondary school did like 2 weeks after David Cameron lost the Brexit vote. He came into our school, and everyone just booed him. And he had to walk out slowly, just like backwards through the main.
I have
main
seen that
entrance.
like
He just-
repeatedly, like at Wimbledon and the Olympics. Just, I think it's David Cameron and George Osborne just like awkwardly smiling as they get booed off the stage.
Yeah, it was someone shouted pig fucker as well, which went down well.
That reminds me, we still have one episode of Black Mirror we never actually watched.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, I love
Last
Black
season.
Mirror.
Yeah, we accidentally skipped an episode in the last season and we never went back and watched it.
Don't tell me it's Kill the DJ, because if you skip Kill
No,
the DJ,
we saw that.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite one.
That is a good one, yeah.
Like, that's
Oh fuck. No, I was thinking going back to the idea of like respecting your family out of like tradition, I suppose. Something I've definitely noticed among certain people at uni is some people have that sort of, it might be something about like the English education system about calling like your teachers sir or miss.
yeah.
But I've generally
not-
switched to this idea of just calling them by their first name because I respect them enough to treat them like an actual human being.
I'm I'm not comfortable with being called by my surname, to be honest. I would rather they just call me by my first
You're
name.
gonna have to get used to that.
In England, it's you call them sir or miss. I'm not sure if it's the same in Scotland, but as a sign of disrespect, you call them by their first name and then make them a nickname. So,
No, because I mean it's sort of a sign of sort of jokey disrespect, but the teachers I respected the most, like people knew their first name. So,
For me,
yeah, that's true. Actually,
for me, making someone call you sir or miss, or even to a lesser extent, Mr. or Mrs. whatever, I suppose that's kind of more formal, but sir or miss is kind of, it's subjugating. Do you know what I mean?
But like,
that first name thing to me is a sign of respect in both directions.
music teachers and biology teachers, they got the most respect from me at least, and I knew the name of my biology teachers, I think. Shout out to Nigel. I hope you're watching.
Is that your pet dinosaur?
No, it's my biology teacher from back in the day.
Is that where you got your pet dinosaur's name from?
No,
Okay, sorry.
this is a very weird, specific reference to something in my life. Anyway,
Gotta go. I really need to go to the toilet.
yeah, do you want to wrap up? Are we
Really?
keeping you from your sleep?
now I'm going to stay on so that I keep Paul from going to the toilet.
I could just leave and you two could just carry
Just have a
on.
bit of banter.
I'm going to go to the toilet and come back.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Okay,
Do you want to carry on?
sure.
I'm going to the toilet and I'll come back.
I'm gonna shit talk you while you're gone.
Oh, that fucking Paul person. Who does he think he is? Huh?
Honestly, absolute bastard. How are
Classic
you?
Paul.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. I haven't cleaned my room in a long time, which is why camera's facing upwards.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure whether to have the main light on or not, because like usually at this time of night I only have that light on there.
You're well lit for the
Yeah.
show
I-
business experience.
yeah, my face looks really red though. So it happens with my dad as well. Apparently, like whenever we're on Zoom, he either looks really orange or really red, no matter what the scene is, and everyone else looks less orange, even though he's like the most pale out of all of us in our family. It's really weird.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh me. But I wanted to talk about something that I probably shouldn't talk about because it's like patient confidentiality at my job.
Just like
But I can say a synopsis of it.
be as anonymous as possible.
One of my teachers is coming in tomorrow. One of my old teachers is coming into where I work, which is in the NHS, as a patient, and they're going to play a joke on him or her that I'm going to practice taking their blood, and I have no practice in that at all. And so it's going to be really, really bloody awkward. And yeah,
I feel like something awesome's going on and I'm missing out.
And we're just talking about
seen-
confidential patient documents, you know. It's all good stuff.
Can I just ask, you watched this on YouTube, or you have watched this podcast on YouTube previously, correct? Are you aware of all the platforms it goes out on, though? Like audio?
I'm not, no.
Well, video-wise, it goes out on YouTube and Twitch, but audio-wise, there's an audio version of it goes out on Spotify, iTunes. Is it on Amazon? I don't know if it's on Amazon, but
I don't think so.
Loads of different podcast platforms as well.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because it's called a podcast, where I was listening to the end of one of them on the way to work one day, and I had to have my phone on, like my screen on, to listen to it because I was watching on YouTube, and I wasn't sure if it was on anything else like Spotify where you can turn your phone off and still listen to it. So
it's on. It's on.
But you don't get our beautiful faces.
I can
Exactly.
Actually, this is a promotional bit, so I can actually list for those who are listening. Who it would be actually kind of redundant for me to go and publicise what platforms we're on to the people who are already listening, wouldn't it?
They might not know. They might be just watching this on
This
YouTube.
is actually breaking borders, but it's going to be on the same platforms, isn't it? So distribution, we are on Anchor, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, and Stitcher.
Nice. I've only heard of Spotify from those.
Yeah. Audio-wise, that is. What was I going to say?
So sorry.
What?
Go ahead.
There's a very interesting thing about family in Game of Thrones. Like Elwin was bringing up earlier, that there's a certain respect you might have for other people in your family. And there's a certain family in Game of Thrones where the head person who's the most he's not statistically the most powerful person in Westeros, but because of his demeanor, he is the most powerful person in Westeros. And he demands respect from his family. And the most important thing about him is the lineage of his family, that it carries on, and they can have 1,000-year dynasty of their family being in charge and stuff.
Tywin Lannister?
Yeah, Tywin Lannister. And
I love that
that's
episode. Sorry.
Yeah, I bloody love Tywin and Charles Dance, if I'm being honest.
Charles Dance, yeah, I mean, brilliant actor. I hated the character, but in a good way, in that I think it was a really good character.
I think
I get this. I have this thing with some people where they hate a film or a character in something, and that kind of ruins it for them. But it's like, that's totally appropriate. You know, he has achieved the goals of playing that character because he's made you hate him. You know?
Yeah, I think there's a certain like, I don't know how to describe it, but novelty to an actor or an actress. I'm not sure. I think they've combined the word into one to describe both, describe all genders, right? Actor, yeah.
I think
yeah. Sorry, I just heard about that recently, but I think there's a certain novelty to someone who can make you hate them within like minutes of them being on the screen. Like they're so good at acting that they might be a really nice person in general. But
I forgot what his name was, but the guy that plays Joffrey, he quit acting after that role.
But a lot of actors
he got so many death threats.
A lot of actors say that it's so much more fun to play villains.
Yeah, I did see that about because Chris Evans, the guy that I think most famously plays Captain America, that's a sort of very goody two shoes sort of role.
Why don't you give your mic a bash?
Him playing who's ostensibly the villain in Knives Out was a very sort of refreshing role for him.
Yeah, that was a good movie as well.
I love that. They're making a sequel I think it's set in the Mediterranean with the same detective.
Knives In.
Wow. Well, so it's like James Bond again.
I did see someone making a joke about, they're going to just get increasingly offensive accents from Daniel Craig. So starting with a Southern drawl, now they're going to go to like an Italian accent.
You're looking at me as though I should say something. What the fuck is this podcast?
I don't know. Like,
how does it go on for so long as well? Because we don't talk about anything really. We just talk bollocks.
But that's kind of the idea.
I suppose. I mean, that's 2.5 hours.
We're having our second philosophical breakdown.
Philosophy. Who is? When? Where?
Right, I did want to talk a bit more about this.
Oh, fucking hell, you're going to start up again.
That idea of found family, though.
Ah, shit, I've got a trumpet lesson tomorrow. In the morning.
Oof. I think...
Well, 12 o'clock. That's kind of morning, isn't it?
I don't know, I think it's probably more a thing of, like, people whose family have rejected them in some way, where you find a new family. Because...
Do you think family always know when they've been the rejectors? Like, you get these people that feel rejected by their family, that feel kind of frowned upon or judged or, you know, in some way kind of ostracized. Do you think it's always obvious to those that are doing the judging that that's how it feels to the judged? Like... I feel like some people just are so absorbed in their own opinions and politics and judgments on everything that they don't actually consider how that feels to the people around them.
Yeah, I think there's definitely sort of... I mean, there'll be some people that sort of like think, oh, whatever behavior you've done, that's brought shame or like it's alienated the whole family, so that's why you've been cast out, whatever.
Like, for instance, I mean, I hope it wouldn't be the case, but if you felt that you were kind of judged or harshly kind of treated by me, I would hope that I suppose at least hope that you could communicate that to me. But for some people, it must, and I know that there have probably been cases where you've had to point something out to me, but there must be situations where people don't feel like they will be listened to enough to actually make it worthwhile to point something like that out, that it would probably only make things worse.
I have definitely been in situations with family that I change my expectations. I mean, I think you do this with everyone, where you change your expectations based on who it is. So, I mean, this is sort of an example of, because I think it's quite a sort of modern issue. I mean, it's obviously been going on a lot longer, but with my transition, like, I expect very different things from sort of your age group, Tom, than I would some of the older people that I maybe interact with.
See, I find that really interesting.
Like some
that difference.
Fairly basic acceptance, I would be quite thankful for from an older crowd.
But do you know what though? I find that interesting, but partly because I kind of mix with a cross section of people, and because of the things that I do as part of my job and the fact that I'm going into education and stuff, I do mix with younger people quite a lot, so I can see the difference. But I try to think about how, I can see how that divide would be easy to become worse when people aren't kind of across the generations, if you like. Like if all of your friends if all of the people you meet with, apart from maybe your kids, were your age as an older person, I can see how it would become an issue, because I know for a fact that there is a massive difference in how the younger generation perceive the world, and it's something that I'm continually kind of learning from, and it doesn't always feel that natural to me because of the world I grew up in, but it's almost like it's a double kind of edged sword, because it's kind of, unless you're exposed to that, you're not even aware of it as a concept, that different generations have that different views on things and that different ability to accept different. It's difficult to describe.
I feel like with that there can be a bit of a tendency to sort of discount the opinions of those that are sort of in your out group, I suppose. Which, I mean, I think that relates to family. It's sort of like you kind of have, based on whatever associations you can form with the people around you, you form some sort of social unit with them. That takes on various forms, but that'll be very much influenced by your politics, by your age, by your background, all these different things. It's there can be a tendency to sort of go, oh well, that group of people, they don't have the same experience as me, therefore I don't understand really where they're coming from, and so just ignore that in a way.
But this is the weird thing, you see, because for me, and obviously with training to be a teacher, I'm kind of finding myself thinking more and more about it, but I feel like teachers must be really some of the best placed to kind of understand that difference in generations, because as a parent, your kids occupy a particular sort of generational situation, but they grow with that generation. But as a teacher, it's continually getting renewed. You're always getting the newer generation coming through, and once they go off into the world as adults, you're always having to readjust to the newest generation's kind of outlooks and what they're. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of. I'm trying to think of another profession where you wouldn't, you would have to be continually adapting to a new generation coming through.
I mean, actually, the police, even though they don't do it very well.
Yeah, I guess. It is that sort of position where, like, you're in some sort of teaching position, I suppose, even if it's not like a school teacher. I don't know if you heard that, but he just farted.
I heard a noise. I wasn't sure what it was.
I feel like I'm reaching the end of my
I am slightly
ability to make much sense.
running out of steam here after quite a bit of mead.
I think Tom has the most stamina by the look of things. We could leave.
Well, I stayed up for about until about 7 a.m. the other day, so this is about the middle of the day for me.
We could just leave it recording and let Tom talk.
And welcome to
I can go through the
Late
entire
Night
history
Radio with
of Yu-Gi-Oh
Tom
if you want.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh my
Yeah.
god! What is that? They're trading cards, aren't they?
Yeah.
Where'd you get them from?
I bought them online. So these are all the expensive ones. But the one that I'm most proud of, if I can get to it.
My only experience with trading cards, I think, was a brief time with Moshi Monsters and this weird dinosaur fighting arcade game that I was into for a brief time. And then I guess like that just sort of became mobile games.
Yeah. So if I'm being honest, Yu-Gi-Oh was the transition for me to get into bridge.
Oh, interesting.
It's similar to bridge, except you don't have a partner. You're just fighting against your opponent. And you're like, bam! You have to save your resources sometimes. You have to use them sometimes. You have to predict what your opponent's going to do. And I still play it to this day.
Hey,
Sounds a bit like I used to play on my phone. I used to play these. What are they called? Battle somethings. Battle. I don't know.
Battle Gone.
I don't know. It's basically you'd have like different characters that would have different sort of powers and different kind of. I can't remember. But you know when you've got like a troop of maybe 4 or 5 different characters that have all got different strength ratings, and they'd be pitted against a crew from the other side, if you like. Is that the sort of thing you do with Yu-Gi-Oh? You have that sort of individual battles where you'd choose one of your characters to kind of try and defeat one of the others, or
It's very similar, except there's been like a power scale evolution since 1996. Sorry, since the card game came out, they've had to constantly improve the monsters to actually make people excited for the next set and stuff. So there's these massive, so loads of monsters interact with other cards, which interact with other cards, which interact with other cards. And so you have a massive turn with like, it takes literally 15 minutes to set up your board, and then you get to the other person and you can either attack or do burn damage or punch them in the face or call the police on them, you know. So it's it's really there's a lot of complex interactions in Yu-Gi-Oh, and if you know how they work, it can be quite fun. But from the outside, it's just there's no point in learning it.
yeah, that sounds completely like bridge.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, I think we should be winding up.
I feel rude.
You are.
Yeah.
Shall we formally invite Tom onto the next episode?
The next episode.
I've really made that a difficult thing to say no to, haven't I?
I don't know. Whenever you're available, you're always welcome, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll probably be up in Aberdeen if it's next episode.
It'd be 4 weeks, wouldn't it?
And I can maybe be outside the window and just be like, hello.
Climb up a
I
ladder.
feel like a little cameo.
Anyway.
Are you... Does anyone have any last remaining thoughts?
Unsurprisingly, I'm quite inebriated, it has to be said.
On family in particular?
Family. I love my family.
Oh.
except you. I'm joking. I'm joking. I do. I love my family. I feel very lucky because I know family isn't something that can be kind of. You can't. Some people don't. Some people aren't as lucky as me in that sense.
I'm sort of in a position where I've got at least some close family which I know accept me and I'm fairly happy with, and like, I mean, at times I would even like consider you as my dad a friend, which is.
I thought you were going to say at times I would consider you as my dad.
No, but like, I feel like that's not the usual dynamic there, where like you're good friends with your own dad. It's not usually how that works, I guess.
To be honest, if it was a choice, I would rather be regarded as a good friend than a good dad.
But I've also got that sort of dynamic where I do have some of that found family, because a lot of my friends, their family isn't that great. So you do get that sort of idea of like they find people that they sort of can form those relationships with where they have that very close bond. There's people that get them, I guess.
Bond.
So I sort of have a dual family in that sense. I don't know what other people's experiences are with that.
Family jewels.
What do you think about the representation of family in media? Like, you know, you see all these movies and they might go through like a struggle and then they're exceptionally close, or they share everything with each other. And I don't see my family in that kind of situation a lot of the time.
I'm trying to remember what it is. I'm going to have to look this up. There's a film Jodie Whittaker's in, the 13th Doctor, that I saw relatively recently, that sort of, I think, portrayed what families actually like, rather than this sort of like, oh, family's everything, we're all together and all for one, like sort of very cheesy interpretation of that. Hold on, get up IMDb. What was it called? No, hold on. Sec.
I think it's like everything else that you've got to be. I mean, it's convenient to have like a default set of people that there's an assumption that you can rely on them no matter what. But at the same time, I think, as with friends, there is always a need to be aware that they're not always guaranteed to have your best interests at heart. So while it's nice to be able to maybe assume that you can go to them and trust them and stuff, you've got to remember as well that at the end of the day you've got to look after your own interests enough to be able to recognize if the way they treat you is to your benefit. You know, I mean, sometimes you get like interventions where, you know, a family will kind of send somebody to rehab forcibly because they need it.
It's Adult Life Skills. It's a film with Jodie Whittaker in it, and I think it sort of portrays an interesting family dynamic of, without spoiling too much, someone who's lost someone in their family fairly recently and are still dealing with that and trying to sort of cope among other family with that and not really getting out so much. It's a good watch, and also it has a very freaky scene with spiders in it, so maybe watch out for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we should be winding up because it's coming up on 3 hours and
almost midnight.
It is. It's almost the witching hour.
Yes, okay. Thank you for coming on, by the way.
Meow.
It's been my pleasure.
I
Now you got to think of a closing thing,
don't come up with new closing things.
don't you? Maybe we should let Tom finish the
Hold on.
podcast.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, or have we exhausted your brain capacity?
I think that's all good.
Cool. Right.
Yeah, but my brain capacity is at 101%, so there's nothing else I can say, really.
It's the bridge brain.
I've literally used all my lexicon in the world, so.
I feel weird.
Anyway, shall we wrap up?
Okay.
Right. I have been Fireball.
Have you?
You're supposed to say I've been the Orbiter.
I have been the Orbiter.
And
I've been Thomas.
Oh, that was what I was going to ask, actually. I was thinking this while I was in the toilet. Do you have a gamer tag?
Yes. There's two. There's either at Tim Drowning or Zeppelin Horde.
Pardon?
It's something I came up with year six.
See,
It's just
these were our gamer tags, Fireball and the Orbiter. So we wondered I wondered whether or not you wanted to just be Tom, or you can be one of the gamer tags if you prefer.
I'll be Zeppelin Horde then.
Okay, so let's do that again.
I have been Fireball.
I've been the Orbiter.
And I've been Zeppelin Horde.
We're just going to call you the Knob, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
No, I didn't say that. It wasn't me.
Well,
Yeah, but he's repeating your words though, so really it comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. Say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Bye. Yes. Bye. Oh, my brain is
this
fried.
Now we're in the
Okay, yes.
Now we're in the outro. Now we're in the
now you can share all your sordid little dirty secrets, Thomas.
Now we're in the what do we call it? What is it called?
After Bollocks,
Afterbirth. That's it. This is the afterbirth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so the teacher that's coming in tomorrow, he used to drink hooky bitter all the time.
The teacher.
And
in
so
like during class time.
No, so he was my computer science teacher for GCSE, and he always used to say, "Back in my day, I used to drink hooky bitter," and stuff like that. And he's coming in to have blood tests tomorrow where I work. So yeah, it's going to be. Hopefully, he remembers me.
So, next episode, we could have a bit of a cliffhanger here. Then, next episode, you could tell us the results of his blood test.
I think that would...
I kind of fingers crossed this doesn't go in the episode because I'm not supposed to be revealing to like anyone outside.
I'm gonna have to do some fucking editing now, aren't I? Well done, Tom.
You didn't say any names, so we should be fine. It's confidential enough. You deal with thousands of patients a day, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it could be anyone.
We have 16 listeners. I wouldn't worry.
It's fine.
Yeah,
I think you're one of them. Oh no, hang on. You're a YouTube viewer, aren't you?
yeah, that's the only where I've only watched it.
Let's go.
Have you got any feedback for us, by the way, on things? Are we doing a good job?
Don't answer that because I'll be depressed for the rest of my life. I'll be crying.
Answer it.
I think you're doing a really good job.
Oh, thank you.
See, now I don't
It's
trust you.
it's really, really entertaining.
No, it's not. Is it really? Surely? Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's the dynamic you two have is really quite nice to see and to watch.
Sorry, I just spat all over you.
Nice and wholesome times.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with me.
But that's what I would say if I actually thought it. It's God. No. Yeah.
I think you're breaking up a bit there. Something I couldn't quite understand what you said.
It's all right. It's all right.
That was a bit of a discomfort noise.
6 out of 10, probably.
I think we should go because I'm really pissed.
Okay.
I want to play chess on your arms.
Joe,
Joe,
if you haven't seen it, I've got like checkered bits on my arms.
My
Nice.
youth orchestra conductor, when I was a teenager, on one of my tours, he actually said that about my shorts. Because I like a fucking twat. I must have been, about 14, 15? And I'm not joking. We were on tour in Italy, I think it was. And I was I'm not joking. I was wearing, I think it was a Garfield t-shirt with a Queen cardigan and luminous green and black square shorts, a bit like your arms, but luminous green and black.
Interesting fashion choice.
Held up by luminous yellow green sort of braces. And I had those, the kind of greeny purple mirror glass sunglasses with luminous green like glass strap thing. You know like old women wear to keep their glasses around their neck when they take them off. Anyway, this guy who was clearly in his 50s or 60s and very, very gay said that he wanted to play chess on my shorts. Bearing in mind that he was the head of music for the entire county, and we did a fancy dress party on one of the nights where everyone had to make costumes out of newspaper, and his costume was a nappy and a baby bonnet. That was it. He was wearing newspaper as a nappy and a baby bonnet, and he was topless and bottomless apart from that, and he was using a beer bottle as a dummy. He was the head of music for the county.
Sounds like a bit of a legend.
I think he's dead now, so I can say, Malcolm Tyler, you were a legend. You used to confiscate beer when teenagers like 13 and 14-year-olds on tour would be buying beer from French supermarkets or whatever. He would confiscate it from them because clearly we weren't allowed it. But you would go back to him towards the end of the tour, after the last concert, when there was going to be like a sort of end of tour party, and say, "Can we have our beer back, please?" And he would give it you back, so that you could get pissed on the last night.
Right. We wrapped up quite a while ago. So if you want to go, like, it is past midnight.
Yeah, we should go now.
I'm probably going to go back on Minecraft for a bit. So.
Enjoy that.
Breed some pigs and cows, some pows, some kigs.
Yeah, I finally got a really good diamond pickaxe, so it's going really well.
Damn.
Good stuff.
Life's good.
I started playing Fortnite the other week.
Oh.
Oh my god.
I'm ashamed of you.
I regret coming on this podcast now. I never got into Fortnite.
You shouldn't.
What do we turn off first? Is it still recording? Fucking hell, it worked, I think. Maybe this didn't work.
It says recording at the top left. So
I've recorded the audio anyway separately, so this is fascinating.
Oh yeah, I think
fucking nearly 3 hours.
Probably legally we have to tell you you're being recorded, but I think you knew that.
There is an option in Zoom actually to inform the participants they're being recorded.
Does it have like 2 beeps at the start and
For
then 2 beeps at the end of the phone call?
security purposes, you are being recorded.
Thank you.
Anyway, yes.
Bye, listeners. We'll see you next time.
Okay. I guess that marks the end of the actual podcast, and we can just talk normally now.
Thanks, Tom. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. It's been great.
I hope it wasn't too boring. I mean, we've literally just been getting pissed.
I mean, what better activities for a Sunday night? So
I'm looking forward to some of these bridge socials.
Yeah,
I think you're going to organise.
Yeah, we're going to do a great job.
I should tell you some of the places to visit in Aberdeen. Or maybe not.
I'm aware of some of them.
Have you been to Slane's Bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to there as a flat on like the first night we were here
I love the toilets there.
in Aberdeen. Yeah.
What about them?
The doors to the toilets are very difficult to find. They're basically built into bookshelves. And when you go in, there's a soundtrack playing in the... because it's very kind of Halloween-y kind of vibe, isn't it? There's kind of...
Yeah, it's
a
all about the
soundtrack
devil.
playing. Yeah, the soundtrack. Well, I went there on my stag night with my friend Scott, and we did the 7 Deadly Sins cocktail challenge. And I won a T-shirt.
I dread to think what Lost would have been.
I can't even remember.
Of course you
Good
can't.
night, though. Good night. Anyway, we should go because stuff and things.
Yeah.
I'll give you a
Important
shout.
stuff and important things.
I'll give you a shout when the next one is.
That'd be great.
God, we've been going 3 hours at this point.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna stop this now.
Longer than the Endgame movie.
Is there anything you want to say before I stop the recording?
Communism is great.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.